Welcome to Package. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
Today we're going to be talking about House of X.
And Powers of 10.
Oh. What? But it says X. Oh, it doesn't even say Powers.
No.
This is the hardcover. It collects both series.
It's Hawks and Pox.
It's two series that are one.
And so we are two hosts that are one.
Oh. This is the new status quo for X-Men.
What is happening?
Literally, okay, so, like, a few months ago, Hickman came on the scene and took over the X-Men books wholesale and dropped these two books and set the X-Men world ablaze.
Yep.
Because, of course, the X-Men had been marginalized for a number of years because Fox owned the X-Men movie franchise, and so those at the top of the ladder at Marvel were like, screw them, Inhumans for days. It was kind of an interesting time. Like, there was like the Wild West for X-Men. Like, people were doing whatever they wanted, but they were like, okay, do whatever you want, but make sure they don't really like matter. Like, they have no influence. They can't change anything.
Don't make it a great story.
Yeah, just dial it back. It's like when Dash is running at the end of The Incredibles. Like, pull it back. Okay. Yeah. Get like third place. Yeah. X-Men was in a bad, dark place. And then Hickman came in. And he was, of course, the architect that ushered in the bold new era that was Secret Wars, and before that, the Fantastic Four status quo, and the New Avengers, and the Avengers, and all that stuff. Like, he plays the long game. He likes to seed things and then pay them off later. And
like a good writer.
yes,
Like he's telling a story.
exactly. Like he's weaving a multi-year narrative. And that seed imagery isn't just poetic for my own narrative devices. It's also integral to the narrative of Hawks and Pox.
Yeah.
I'm calling it Hawks and Pox because
What the hell is Hawks and Pox?
Okay.
Hawks, House of X, and Pox, Powers of 10, with an X.
Powers of 10.
Right.
Okay.
There's also Docs, which is
Are
going on
these-
right now, which is the dawn of X.
That's right.
Oh, God.
And then, of course, when it all wraps up, it'll be the Fox.
Yeah, the fall of X.
So are these are sequential books?
Yes. The idea was that
yes.
two books came out.
Why does oh, I see. It says, no.
Powers of
no,
X.
You can
House
barely
of-
see Powers of X.
Yeah.
Well,
outside.
because House of X was really the main book that was coming out, and Powers really supports House of X.
Yes.
You don't have to read Powers of 10 necessarily, but it's highly recommended because of how much additional information and honestly peek into what Hickman might be doing that comes with it. It's so integral, though, in my opinion, that the way this book is put together is how it came out. And so it's not like all House of X in the beginning and all Powers of 10 in the back. It's like however they release the books is how it's in here. So the first issue is House of X, next was Power of 10. He has a designer he actually brought in to help redesign not only the pages for this book, but also the X-Men logo itself.
Yeah, actually, every title at X-Men was canceled before House of X and Powers of 10 came out. So they were like, nothing's in the way. Everything is part of the Hickman dynasty. So House of X opens with this info page that is like a good indication as to the design elements and aesthetic of the entire series, which is kind of like a computer.
It's minimalistic.
Minimalistic and kind of like program, because you can see like
There's codes all
there's
over it.
little codes that'll indicate what we're talking about. Xavier Alpha. What does that mean?
Okay.
But it says, humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed. And the quote is attributed to the Professor X. So, things are different now. No question. When you pick up this book, everything's different. And so the book opens, and it's this weird kind of plant place. It looks like a swamp, and at the base of this tree are these pods, and then the pods burst open, and people spill out of them.
Pod people. If you
Naked
will.
people.
Indeed.
Ooh.
And then a
The
They're
cover
covered
was
in
goo.
sap.
yeah,
I say goo.
this bejumpsuited character wearing a giant helmet that
It's
is
not Reed Richards?
It is not
Or
Reed
the
Richards.
evil Reed
It's not.
Richards?
It's not the maker. But here's the thing. So there's a dude in a onesie wearing a big helmet, and he's sinisterly dancing over his puppets or
And it
his
covers
pod
his
people.
eyes.
Covers his eyes, and he says, "To me, my X-Men," which is a classic Professor X line. We're to infer this is Professor X. It is. I'm not going to bury the lead here. It's Professor X. But you're like, what?
Yeah.
By the way, Hickman created the Maker.
Yeah.
which was, of course, Ultimate Reed Richards, who went bad and then put on a big, crazy-looking helmet that covered his eyes, and you're like, oh, no, you're doing it again? But I think that's more of a design element. It's just kind of something that
Right.
Hickman knows that that's what the Maker looks like, and so he wants you to think like, oh.
Oh no, an Ultimate Professor X.
Right.
Oh no, it's not for Ultimate.
Or it could be, a lot of people initially when this came out was like, is this the Maker?
Yeah.
Pretending to be?
Or is this Professor X at all? Like, could it not be him?
Yeah.
I mean, last time I checked,
That's
Professor
not-
X was dead
Or paralyzed,
like-
or whatever he was.
Yeah,
But
he certainly wasn't fit, wearing a onesie,
And growing
donning-
people in a tree.
and donning a giant.
well, we
haircut.
don't know, I guess. And let's just point out that when we're filming this, Dawn of X hasn't wrapped up.
No.
So we're going to tell this story as best that we can and
For
answer the
Hawks and
questions that
Pods.
we can, but
Yeah.
there's no end to this yet.
Right. So then it indicates that 5 months ago we see familiar hands. The
We're
hands
going back.
Let's go back. Let's go back from that moment of pod people blasting out of the ground. And then we see the flowers being planted all over the place, and it says things like 3 months ago the blue area of the moon, which of course the blue area of the moon is the one spot on the moon where there's atmosphere. The
Naturally.
Watcher lived there, or the
Makes
humans
no
sometimes.
sense, but yeah.
Okay.
So as the months tick down, you got 4 months ago in Westchester, Storm's planting a flower. 3 months ago, Iceman's planting a flower on the moon. 2 months ago on Mars. 1 month ago in the Savage Land. 3 weeks ago, Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago, the Jerusalem habitat now has this, like,
The
plant. Oh, the Jerusalem habitat. There's, like, a building in Jerusalem that is now referred to as a habitat. Every location that the X-Men grow a plant on is referred to as a habitat.
This
Okay.
has nothing to do, like, with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right?
No, with Ego?
Yeah.
No, it does not.
I don't mean Ego itself. I just mean, like, it's not a similar plot.
No.
Where he's trying to, like, plant himself places.
Well, it's...
I
No.
mean, there is a plant.
There is
No,
a
I would
plant,
say
but
no.
it's not
That
that.
seems
No.
important in
Because
some way.
Like, the Ego planting was more like a nefarious scheme concocted by him to spread and propagate, as opposed to this, which is more like the plant is used as a device, although it is also a character. We'll get into that in a
Kind
minute,
of.
But also, I would like to touch upon that because, like, maybe that is
It
their
could
plan.
be. No, but we don't know because the book hasn't
okay.
wrapped up yet.
Yeah.
I see.
So then, in front of this building now we're now.
Right.
These ambassadors are all meeting at the doorway, and they're all kind of like talking amongst themselves about this situation and about the invitation they received, and about how. So apparently, I'm going to skip their dialogue, but their context is. So the other day, Charles Xavier reached out to every single mind on the planet and said, "Yo, I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse." That kind of context. And so the ambassadors all are going to meet with Professor X.
Like, this is happening with or without your permission, so get on board.
Well, and also, you can't possibly refuse my offer with a carrot this delectable. Like, with what I'm going to offer you in exchange for what I want.
Well, what is a normal person supposed to do with that?
Well, normal people like you and me, if Professor X told us that, we have to make peace with our maker and get over it. But like people who are nation builders, people who are lawmakers, they're going to have to take what he says and interpret it and work with it. Because what's happening is these ambassadors are all faced with a choice that is given to them by Professor X, and they're here at the Jerusalem habitat to negotiate, parlay, if you will, with the X-Men. Or Professor Xavier at this new habitat, which they are calling Krakoa.
Well, really, they're greeted by the Stepford Cuckoos, which is always a bad indication.
Yes, especially because they were dead. In fact, there are a lot of characters that you're like, weren't they dead? That aren't anymore.
The
Are they the
Stepford
pod
Cuckoos?
people?
What?
The Stepford Cuckoos are... They're kind of like clones of Emma Frost. And the idea is that they became kind of like surrogate daughters or extensions of her. And they work as kind of like a hive mind.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're fun, and I really like those characters because they kind of like they're always creepy and
Yeah,
intimidating.
they're this far away from a Stephen King notebook.
Right,
Like-
exactly. But they're of course extensions of Emma, so they're creepy and kind of like hoity-toity. And one of the mutants from the earlier class, Quentin Quire, is actually in love with Sophie, one of the Stepford Cuckoos, and he like when she died, he tries to like resurrect her by using the Phoenix whole thing. The point is,
It doesn't work,
the
so he just
Stepford
dates
Cuckoos-
a different one, and it's like, oh, it's exactly the same.
none of them want to date him, especially Sophie. So the Cuckoos greet them, and they're like, "Hello, welcome." And I like to imagine they kind of speak at the same time.
Yeah, like come play with us.
Yeah. But they're like, "Come on
Okay.
in." Yeah.
Not like that.
No.
Oh no. So they enter, and it's like this kind of combination of like a biohabitat and technology, where like there's platforms and also
It's a
water.
techno habitat.
That's right, a techno-organic habitat. But don't think about the techno-organic virus. Totally different.
It's just what else are you gonna call it?
Yeah. So they're being gracious hosts, and like, can I offer something to drink? And they're like, yeah, no. We're just here to talk to Professor X. And Magneto shows up, and he's like, well, he's not here today, and I'm here to talk to you.
What?
It's like, hey, what's up?
We've been bamboozled!
Bingo. And Magneto's wearing a new exact replica of his old costume, but it's white to indicate like he's changed.
He's good now.
Yeah.
It's
this
like
indicates
that.
that he's like reached a new power level, like a Dragon Ball.
I was gonna say it's like that. What if Star Wars, where Vader turns
Yeah,
his
Star Wars
armor all
Infinities.
white?
Yeah.
So then we're treated to the first info dump.
Info
Here's
dump.
the page.
Yay.
And this will be a thing that he's going to use in every X book.
Forever.
From Hawks and Pox into like, things like
Docs.
X-Force and X-Men and Excalibur and stuff like that. Just like a full stark white page with just data on it.
Okay.
And this double page splash explains the flowers of Krakoa and what they're all about. Krakoa is the new kind of like Genosha or habitat for the X-Men. It's where the mutants are right now.
They're
It's
doing
their
that
base.
again.
Yeah.
They always get blown up or whatever, but let's
There's
try
always
one
a
more
man.
time.
There's always an island. There's always an explosion.
There's always a place, the mutants all go, and then they die. This place is called Krakoan.
Yeah, because you centralize.
Yeah.
No, you have to spread out.
I agree. Well, and I think they plan to. Well, part of it is with the Krakoan flowers, but so they're explaining what the Krakoan flowers are, and so each Hickman-esque design element or word that he totally used in that independent comic.
But
he
it's
did.
totally different looking.
Yeah, sure. And but each one is a drug that is harnessed from Krakoa's ability to generate or replicate stuff. They indicate there are 3 drugs that Professor X is ready to roll out for human consumption. This flower produces a drug that extends the human life for 5 years. The next one produces an adaptive universal antibiotic, a super drug, if you will, for human beings. And the third drug produces a cure for diseases of the mind. So Alzheimer's.
Professor
and stuff.
X has decided to become Devlin McGregor.
Yes.
And
Became a
Make a
pharmaceutical.
whole lot of money. I'm just
Yes.
cashing in.
That's right. Straight up is.
Okay.
You know what? No one wanted to listen to me when I was just talking about peace, so now I'm going to be a like trillionaire.
That's exactly right.
now
Well,
you've got Provasic.
yeah. And by the way, Professor X was already a trillionaire. What's established in this is that Professor X actually had like multiple holdings and companies all across the world, and that
What did they do?
They did all kinds of things. They did commerce, trade, pharmaceuticals. In fact, Professor X takes over the 7th largest pharmaceutical company when no one was paying attention, and then uses it to manufacture these Krakoan drugs. Of course, that propels it from the 7th to the 1st largest
Right.
pharmaceutical company, which makes him trillions of dollars, which he, by the way, establishes in this story where he's like, I would have given this to you for free, but you guys had to be all jackasses about it since X-Men #1.
I kept saying I wanted peace.
Now you're gonna get it, but you're gonna pay out the ass for it if you want to live 5 years.
So
whatever
what
that
is- I was
means,
just gonna
by
say,
the way.
what the hell does that mean?
extends your life
Every
5
time you
years.
take it, does it extend your life
Right,
by
so
5
you can live
years?
forever? No, I think it's.
How would I ever know that it worked?
I think it's. Yeah. What if I get hit by a car? Hey, this drug, I want a refund. Like,
Oh, you're dead.
Well, suppose I die at 85 after I took the drug.
Well, you were gonna
How
die
would I
at
know
80?
that I was previously going to die at
Maybe
80?
You can only be given it on your deathbed.
Like you have to be sick.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think it's
I
like.
don't want to prolong my life when I'm on my deathbed. I want
no,
like
like,
weak
cool.
and shitty.
How do you
Cool, I
test a
bought
drug
another
like
5
that?
years.
Of this.
How does it get FDA approval? Like, how do you prove
Oh,
that?
well, see, here's the thing, and so
Like, I got
How-
a drug that'll extend
right.
your life for 5 years. It only costs you $500 right now. I'll give
yeah,
it to
exactly.
you.
How does it get FDA approval? Because they want it. Because they grease palms and they use mental powers and they just do it. The same way that every other company does it. And that's
well,
what they're saying.
most companies can't go into your mind and change your
but
thoughts.
but they do by giving you billions of dollars to change your mind.
right.
And
And Professor X, he could do both.
Exactly.
He could grease the machine with money, or he could just make you do
compel
stuff.
you to
Yeah.
change your mind. Yes. But of course, it is Professor X. The only thing that stops him is his own morality, which he seemingly abandoned. So those are the human element of the Krakoan drugs. There's also other flowers. Those are for the humans. Those are the only 3 things from Krakoa we're going to give to the humans. The rest of it, all of Krakoa, is for the mutants, and some of that includes gateways, habitats, and something else. The gateways are what the flowers that the X-Men were planting are, which is you plant the flower, it becomes a gateway, and it's basically a portal.
I think it's directly to Krakoa.
I think you're right.
I think it's like literally it's
Krakoa's the hub.
The hub, and then from the hub
From
you
there
go
you
after the
go
spokes.
out. Yeah.
okay.
It's just
But you always return to Krakoa.
yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's always it's like
Whoever
actually
controls Krakoa controls the entire network of
precisely,
portals.
but no human may pass through a portal without a mutant's express permission and
Well, what if they
coordination.
do?
They can't.
They can't.
I mean,
Also,
they physically
no-
can't.
Physically cannot.
Yeah.
How do the?
It's not like
mutants
they
control
die.
that?
It's just
No,
like
it's just,
I can't
it
get.
just they can't get through. It's just
Yeah.
like a wall.
But you said with mutants' permission they
Yeah,
can.
well, because they have
What does
to
that
ask.
mean?
They have to ask Krakoa for permission. That like a
Oh.
mutant's like, hey, if Spider-Man wants to go to Krakoa, they're like, this guy's cool, and like Nightcrawler and he can walk through the portal.
I see.
But Krakoa has to go like, I've checked him out and he is.
So there's a
cool.
consciousness.
There is a consciousness attached to Krakoa.
Okay.
And
Hey,
so
The Rock wants to visit Krakoa.
yeah, he wants to give a
All right,
keynote
he's
speech.
cool.
Yeah, he is cool. He can go without a mutant. But anyway, those are the things. You got
Okay.
and the habitat, of course, is the like a place like the Jerusalem habitat, where it's like you can now have a house without having to build one. It just you plant this thing and it grows and it then becomes a place for you to live, and it responds to your requests, and it makes food, or it makes like a sink or a toilet or
So
whatever
it's like
you
a
need.
living house.
Exactly.
Well, they deal with the plumbing issue
Yeah,
at one point.
they do. And then there's the other element, which they just kind of like, and of course it's the ominous indicator.
Right.
There's another thing called No Place. And this is a habitat that is created on Krakoa or around Krakoa that Krakoa has no consciousness in. It's like, and it's what the infographic describes as a tumor. It's a thing that exists that Krakoa has no knowledge of and no purview around. But it is made kind of in conjunction to the Krakoan initiative. Now, I want to talk about Krakoa for a second, because Krakoa is a familiar name to X-Men fans, not to you guys, of course.
Nope.
No.
Krakoa first shows up in Giant Size X-Men #1. Krakoa was the island that walks like a man. The idea here is that the original X-Men, the 05, if you will, are sent to Krakoa because Professor X gets a ping that there's this like mutant out in this like place. So he sends the X-Men to go check it out, and it turns out that the place is the mutant. That the island is actually sentient, and it's kind of like morphed by nuclear testing, because like everything was. And so it was like a mutant that became an island, or the island was conscious, whatever the case. It was a big, horrible monster island that attacked and took the X-Men. And so Professor X is like, shit, I know, I'll form a new team and send that team to their deaths to save my other team that I sent to their deaths. So that's where the X-Men came from Giant Size, which includes things like Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Storm, Thunderbird, and so forth. So they go and they rescue the old X-Men. Actually, Cyclops comes back from, like, he's the only one who survives or makes it from Krakoa.
Well, it's because he's like super cool and powerful.
Oh, and it's because we needed somebody to be able to give context for what the hell was going on. He leads that X-Men to go do that. Then they retcon that Moira McTaggart formed another X-Men between those two X-Men.
Right.
And they went to Krakoa, and they failed too. And so Professor X is like, ooh, if I'm going to succeed with the third team, I better wipe everybody's minds of the secret second team. And that includes the third Summers brother. But I'm not going to get into that too much. I just wanted to say that Krakoa is a complicated mess.
That like was shot into space at some
Yes,
point.
ultimately the Krakoan island was.
Yay, they fixed it.
Yeah, well, then it became a prisoner of the Stranger, whom we spoke about in our episode Avengers: Along Came a Spider. But the Stranger's this cosmic being who like collected all this crap, but not the Collector. The thing about Krakoa is, it doesn't even matter if it is the same Krakoa, because there are Krakoan offsprings that they have used in X-Men continuity, so it doesn't really matter.
It could be one of the
but
offspring.
It's probably the main Krakoa.
Did the offsprings have individual names?
Yeah, Krakoa.
Okay.
That's confusing.
In fact, one of the
Krakoa
Krakoan...
Junior.
Oh, that's the thing. You gotta put a number after.
One of the Krakoan seeds or pods was used in the Danger Grotto in the Generation X's mansion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But what's
Right.
funny is in this, we'll flash back and like they'll find Krakoa and it's this place, and so it has to be the main Krakoa, but it can't be the main Krakoa because they just the Krakoa thing drives me crazy, and I'm
Get an answer, I'm sure.
no, I have every doubt because Hickman likes to make stuff up. Like when Hickman's like, nah, that doesn't work, he'll just create something.
Right.
Be like, no, there's a whole race of Krakoans and they come from the Krakoan planet. That Krakoa, blah 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 blah, and like,
I thought it was a mutant.
nah. Or it's a space mutant. He did the same
What?
thing with the Beyonders. The Beyonders were like,
mutant.
Beyonder was this guy, and then he was this cosmic cube, and then he was this Inhuman mutant, and then he was a race of Beyonders. By the way, he's not wrong.
He's telling good stories.
It's cool though, and that's the thing. If your ideas are cooler than continuity, that'll win every time.
Yeah.
And Krakoa is neat. Also, people like the familiar. Ooh, Krakoa. I remember that, but I don't remember too much about it.
Right.
So
I
I'm
remember that
I'm
was
not
a
going to
thing,
ask
but-
questions about it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember it, and I see a bunch of like eyes in a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So Jean's bringing new mutants to Krakoa. Jean Grey's back, everybody, and she's dressed like her old costume.
is this
Marvel
time
Girl.
displaced?
No.
No.
No, the original 5, time displaced,
Did they
young
go away?
X-Men. Yeah, Cable went back in time. Not our Cable, but actually a younger version of Cable went back in time and grabbed them all, knocked them out, and forced them to go back in time and go back where they came from.
I see.
So anyway, we cut to Cypher, who's a member of the New Mutants, who is, of course, a combination of himself and the Phalanx entity known as Warlock.
Right.
And Cypher, of course, is a mutant who was a member of the New Mutants, and he was always like really sad, and we covered him a little bit in X-Men Asgardian War, where he was always sad because he's like, I can know every language. I can't punch Magneto because of that. Like, that sucks.
But I can curse him out in a whole bunch of different
Cypher's
ways.
ability is all he could do is understand
Oh,
and
I
interpret
see.
every
Right.
language. That doesn't make you an X-Man who could shoot optic blasts and punch people.
Right. He's very selectively useful.
But he's super useful in communicating with this sentient island that we're trying to harvest seeds, pods, doorways, and stuff. So Cypher is kind of like at the control helm. I love it because like this whole thing, the X-Men are like in a real place of power and authority, and they're like, yeah, and they're like patting themselves in the back because they like figured it all out. Everything is connected and resting upon making sure that one mutant doesn't die.
Right.
But if like one mutant like breaks their ankle or something, the whole goddamn thing spins out of control and the centrifuge kills everybody.
Right.
Like, but they're all like, yay! And I'm like, what are you talking about? Plus you're acting all weird and cultish.
Well, it's always dependent upon like one mutant. It's usually just, Magneto or Professor X.
No, those are leaders. No, it's not like they're like, okay, we figured out how to have infinite drinking water, but only if this one mutant who can purify water is here. Also, he lives and dies like a man. Like, no! You have not figured it out! It's like the same thing with Civil War 2, when they were like, we figured it out, this one guy can predict the future. Oh, cool, I hope nobody kills him. Let's write laws around him. Like, what? Anyway, so Cypher's in charge of interfacing with Krakoa. And
So Cypher's the most powerful man in the world.
one of them. They're all, well, like, all the
Everyone's
mutants are powerful and important. That's the
Well,
thing.
Yeah, but he is talking without Krakoa. The rest of them are nothing now,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So Jean brings this young mutant through, and we see Krakoa for the first time, and it's like this beautiful utopia, and they're having a wonderful time.
Where is there physically?
It's an island.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Krakoa is an island
So they
where
have as much
live.
land as the book needs them to have.
Bingo.
Okay.
And this is not where those two like senators were meeting Magneto.
No, that was in the Jerusalem habitat. That was like an offshoot.
Okay.
That's in Jerusalem in
And
like
it
a
has
building.
a portal into.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is where we get like another indication that things are wrong because like there's children in Krakoa and they're playing with Wolverine and he's laughing and having a wonderful time.
Oh.
And Professor X just kind of creepily standing there looking at them with his weird expressionless helmet.
Yeah, this is effed up.
So he smiles at Jean and he says, "Welcome home, Jean. You're safe here. We all are."
Well, he thinks it.
Right. Well, they're communicating telepathically. For all the purposes of speaking. You're safe.
These are the pod people, right?
Yeah.
I assume.
Well, this is before the pod people thing.
We haven't
Then we
caught up to the
see-
pod people yet.
No, this was 5 months ago. Well, now it's kind of
Now
not.
it's now.
Now it's nowish.
It doesn't matter. The point
What,
is,
it's
by
right
the way,
before the pod people. Where are
it's
we? in
getting to
relation
the pod people. We'll
Okay.
get there.
So the pod people is in the future,
Yes.
and we're now.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. By the way, you asked about where this is. I love it because the next page was here's the island
Here's
of
the
Krakoa,
map, I see.
and here's all the indications as to like what is on Krakoa.
Well, there's a House of M.
Yes,
Interesting.
that's Magneto's house,
Ah,
which of course he calls House of M.
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
That didn't go well last time.
No.
That's the Hom. We don't talk about Hom. We don't talk about the Hawks.
Okay. Oh, and it's in the Pacific,
Yeah.
like
roughly
there.
near Australia.
It's
Yeah.
somewhere.
yeah.
It's someplace where
South
it would be nice
Pacific.
and warm.
It's really
and comfortable.
nice. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So then we go to outer space, actually like right near the sun,
Sure.
where there is
Right
a
near it?
Yeah, right
right
outside
near.
the sun. There's a clandestine organization that is a conglomerate of every organization that is in the Marvel Universe. AIM, SHIELD, even
Sword.
Hammer, Sword. Every organization that existed in the Marvel Universe had some...
Hydra's here. too.
Hydra.
Yes.
Hydra
What?
there?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
The thing that all these organizations have in common is there were key members who were super racist against mutants. And so they all formed one company or group called Orchis. Because in Civil War,
Taken.
Stark went into a coma or whatever, or died. So when he died and when Reed Richards was thought dead after Secret Wars, shit went wrong. Like his tech was stolen and damage control fell apart and stuff like that. And Hickman uses all that to fuel this.
I see.
Okay.
The idea is we meet all these characters like Dr. Gregor, who are like these people who are here to try and stave off their inevitable extinction at the...
Hands of mutants?
Yes, because mutant kind is now on the fast track to becoming the dominant species on the planet.
Okay.
So are they harnessing the power of the sun?
They're building something outside the sun, which they're using the sun to power all kinds of shit, I'm sure.
Okay.
But more important, they're building something, their final solution to the mutant problem.
Oh boy.
Final solution.
Hey, no,
Do they call it that?
I'm calling it
Okay,
that.
but
Because when you're talking about dealing with a race of people and eradicating them by building something
Yeah.
that is causing their destruction, that's a final solution.
Right.
You're a Nazi. So Dr.
And they
Gregor-
have freaking Hydra.
well, Hydra. No, it's not
Yeah.
Hydra. It's elements of Hydra. It's elements of all these
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah, but they're in there, so.
Yeah, they're all
kinda
mixed.
makes
They're all
sense.
mixing
If
around.
you're palling around with AIM beekeepers and Hydras and Hammer, which was Norman Osborn's shield, you're already in a bad place. And one of the key members of this organization is the Omega Sentinel, who was actually a character that was created in a horrible X-Men event called Operation Zero Tolerance in 2000. And I love that she's in this because I'm like, what? I hate that she's in this because there is, according to her story, there is absolutely no reason for her to be in this. But that being said, let's just skip ahead and say, hey,
It's the Omega Sentinel.
it's Karina. It's Karima, the Omega Sentinel, and she's part of the Orchis Initiative.
Oh.
An Omega
These are
Sentinel,
the antagonists.
She's an antagonist.
Yeah.
And by the way, an Omega Sentinel is a human that was injected with nanites that became like kind of like partial Sentinel. So the thing they're building outside the sun is a mother mold. Now, of course, we all know that Sentinels are the problem for mutants, right? Now, Sentinels are robots that are built to kill mutants. Well, there's a character or another Sentinel that they've created in the past called Master Mold, and Master Mold makes Sentinels.
He's
So-
a sentinel that makes sentinels.
It's just
Yes.
a factory.
Yeah, well, Master Mold, he is like a sentient robot.
It's like the Alien Queen.
Yeah, he makes Sentinels.
Okay.
So Orchis built a mother mold, which builds master molds.
Oh my god.
What?
And the mother mold is offline, but they're constructing it outside the sun.
Wait. Okay. is there any master molds active right now, or are there not any right now, and that's why we
I
need a mother
assume
mold
right
to
now
make
there
a
are
master
no
mold?
master molds right now. The
Okay.
X-Men usually fight them and destroy them, but like,
I see.
there's always one or two running around. I mean, there's Omega Sentinels, there's like Tri-Sentinels, like there's all kinds of Sentinels. Hickman is just showing you that, like, oh my god, if Sentinels are a problem and master molds make those, then a mother mold must be even more problematic. Plus, the mother mold is something else. We've never seen this before.
It's
Right.
mother mold. She's
could
gone
be
from
anything.
suck to blow.
Exactly. But she's built outside the sun because if she comes online prematurely and is insane, they can pull the plug and drop her into the sun.
Okay, I see. That's
I'm sorry.
if
it
that's
has
your backup
sentience?
plan, you should probably just not.
But your foundation is built on a foundation of like Hydra and AIM and Hammer and
well,
Shield.
you've got the exact makeup here.
Yeah.
It's
Hydra is a
AIM
very small percentage.
yeah,
true.
but AIM is a very large percentage.
Well, they
Yeah.
were the only science division of evil organizations.
right.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, Alpha Flight's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
A little bit everybody.
Everyone's culpable.
A little bit everybody's in this. This is the problem.
Yeah, but that's the Orcus protocol. It just explains like Orcus was designed, and after the whole Xavier going to everybody's minds and saying like, "Hey, while you slept, the world changed." They were like, "Let's get rolling with this Orcus
Right.
thing."
All right. He's threatening us.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of okay, right?
Uh-huh.
I think it's okay, right? It's okay. If we're threatened by them, we can.
No, let's start. Let's build the mother mold. So, meanwhile, in Damage Control's headquarters, Mystique and Sabretooth are stealing essential files that, like, is obviously sent.
A classic X-Men adventure is happening.
Yeah.
Oh no, Sabretooth and Mystique.
And Toad.
And Toad. Like,
But it's
classic,
damage control that they're like.
that they're ransacking. Yeah.
Well,
Sabretooth-
damage control were the good guys, and these are the bad guys.
Yeah, but Damage
guess.
Control is complicated right now. But of course, Damage Control was a cleanup organization that dealt with like when superheroes or villains had a fight. The Damage Control came clean it up, and it's kind of like partially owned by Stark. But because Stark and Reed Richards were missing, Damage Control kind of fell into disarray, and so as such, like Damage Control is now part of this whole Orcus problem.
Oh. Okay.
So Sabretooth killed a bunch of guards while they grabbed this information. They go to leave, and they bump into the Fantastic Four, who are like, hey, we're here to stop you.
Yeah.
Classic, fun superheroics, yay.
Yay.
They punch Sabretooth, and then...
No, you can't fight us. We're mutants. This is a hate crime.
So they're fighting them. They go to the Krakoan portal. They're like, if we could just ditch the Fantastic Four, get through the portal, we're good.
Uh-huh.
So Mystique jumps to the portal, Sabretooth goes for it, and the door slams shut in front of him. And he's stuck there because it wasn't the door, it was the Invisible Woman who blocked the door.
Oh,
okay.
nice.
So the Fantastic Four are like, you're done, lame, evil Wolverine. We're here to
Right.
stop you. Then Cyclops comes through the door. And he's like, hey, the Fantastic Four! I don't think I've seen you guys in a long time. Hey, Ben, I heard you got married. Mazel tov. It's so great to see you. And they're like, yeah, it's great, man. This is after the whole Professor X invaded all of our minds thing.
Right.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, Cyclops, how's it going? He's like, it's so good. It's amazing, in fact. It's so good to see you. They're like, yeah, that's great. He goes, well, so? Can I take Sabretooth off your hands? And they're like, no. Because he murdered people, and also, like, you're not, like, in charge of anything.
Right. Yeah, where you take him where?
Yeah.
Take him to what?
Take
You
him
just
where
let
what?
him go.
And he goes, well, look, Dr. Richards, you're smart. I don't need to explain to you, like, what amnesty means, right? And he's like, okay, Scott. But that's not going to happen. He goes, okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just have him? You know what? We'll deal with it another time.
You know what? I'll call this one a freebie.
Exactly. And they're like, oh, thanks. And so Sabretooth's like, are you shitting me? I thought we had a deal here. And so they're about to leave. And Sue goes, Scott, are you guys for real? And Scott's like, what do you mean? We're of course we're for real. She goes, because, like, what do you really hope to accomplish with this whole, like, you're creating a nation, you're selling drugs, you think you're, like, running stuff, you're invading all of our minds, like, this is all kind of gross and weird. And he's like, you know what's gross and weird? Annihilating my species on a constant basis, building death robots to come kill me. I personally have died at least 1 or 2 times. Like, no, that's gross and weird. Did you really think, because we're like the natural inheritors of this earth, that we were just going to take it lying down? And they're like,
What? Natural inheritors of the earth.
yeah. And they're like, see you later, Scott. And he goes, oh, by the way, tell your son Franklin Franklin Richards, of course, being the offspring of Sue and Reed, who is a mutant, an Omega-level mutant who can change reality, and has, in fact, goes tell Franklin that when he's of age, his family's waiting for him on Krakoa. And then
that was a bad move.
yeah. And then we get a little breakdown of all of the Omega-level mutants, because Hickman's like, okay, what is an Omega-level mutant? What does that even mean?
Right.
Well, since no one can answer that question, and I lost my X-Men trading cards that explain that, I'm just going to make a chart. So he does, and he names every Omega-level mutant that we know, and what their alliance is. And there's only one Omega-level mutant that has a human alliance, which is indicated with red, which is to indicate bad mojo, and that's Franklin. But the rest of them are all Omega-level mutants because and Omega-level mutants essentially means there's no top limit to their power.
What?
They can just
Iceman's
keep
an
going.
Omega-level mutant?
Yes, he is, and that's established.
What?
Yeah, he can
Why?
freeze. He can make ice. He can freeze water molecules. There's
Okay.
water everywhere.
Pyro can make fire.
You know,
He's not Omega
he
level.
needs to start with fire. He has to have fire to use it. He can't conjure fire.
Yeah, but like Iceman can't
he doesn't
create
conjure water.
Well, there's water in everything.
I see. So his power, it's not that his power level is so high, it's just his power happens to manipulate a thing that is
Well, and his
everywhere.
ability to manipulate it has no upper limit. Like, he
Okay.
could freeze
Maybe
the earth.
Pyro's ability to manipulate fire
Well,
has no
the
upper
chart
limit.
says he isn't.
Okay, interesting.
Magneto, same
So
deal.
people... So whenever Iceman's in play, like, he could fight, like...
Yeah, but he's an idiot, and that's the whole thing. Because Emma Frost takes over his body one time, and like she's like, "Oh my God, you could do anything!" And he's like so humbled and humiliated by that experience, it like puts him into a deep depression.
Oh.
And it changes his outfit for a while. Anyway, so then we see the ambassadors. Remember the ambassadors? They're talking to Magneto. They're getting this
Yeah.
like tour of like all their little like facilities, but they don't
Yeah.
get to go to Krakoa. And they're like, yeah, when are we gonna go to Krakoa? And Magneto's like, oh, I'm sorry, you thought we were going to Krakoa? No, you don't get to go to Krakoa.
Right.
Krakoa's for mutants.
You just get to talk about it with me.
Yeah, we're gonna work out the deal, you see.
What deal?
The deal is for applying for statehood. They're gonna go like Krakoa's
They want
going.
a seat at the UN.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these ambassadors are here to kind of like try to parlay. These are negative groups, people who responded negatively to the Krakoan initiative, and they're here to kind of like talk about what they can do with the Krakoan drugs and the trade deals and whatnot. And ultimately, the whole thing goes crabbed because the Stepper Cuckoos can read minds, and they're like, yeah. So these three people none of them are on the up and up. One of them was sent by their government to make a trade deal, but only if like you get exclusive trade negotiations. One of them is here because they're actually a secret SHIELD agent. The other one hates mutants. In fact, the secret SHIELD agent, or ex-SHIELD because SHIELD doesn't exist anymore, yeah, he has a gun. Would you like me to take care of it? Magneto's like, I don't need you to take care of it. I'm a fucking master of magnet.
Right.
You think I didn't know he had a gun?
Exactly. So he takes it apart, and he's like, it wasn't for me, it was for them because they're actually like bad guys. He goes, the thing I've learned about humans in my time from the Holocaust to now is there are no sheep in the human race. You're all wolves.
Jeez.
And that's why I brought you here. I wanted to have this conversation with you here in Jerusalem to show you kind of like this very on-the-nose metaphor about like the birthplace of gods and about like your own religion, that you have new gods now.
That's cool.
Weird.
So that's the kind of like setup where you're like, okay.
First issue of Hawks, you're like,
oh shit.
You're like, what is happening? And then the next issue that comes out is Powers of 10. And Powers of 10 takes everything you just learned and says, put the brakes on that for a hot second.
Now forget all that because we're going.
Because hold on, because we're going to talk about 4 different timelines in the same book. So we're going to talk about X0 or 10-0, X1 or X to the first power, X or 10 to the second power, and X3 or 10 to the third power. I'm just going to refer to them as X0, X1, X2, X3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? X0 is the past. It shows Xavier talking about one man, one dream. There we go, right?
Okay.
X1, it's kind of what's going on right now.
now.
It's the world. Here we go. X2 is the year 100, the war. And then X3 is year 1000, the ascension. Okay? So what do we see here? We see Xavier, we see new Xavier, we see Nimrod, and we see some blue person.
Who's Nimrod?
Nimrod is a
You say
Sentinel?
Nimrod like I know that.
Nimrod is like the next step in Sentinels and like spells certain doom for mutants.
Yeah, we see them usually in like dystopian futures.
Ah, okay.
So year 100,
Yeah.
it's the war, right? So then we start X0. We're at a fair. There's like literally like a tiny person, strong man. You see the fortune teller's booth, that kind of thing, and you see Charles Xavier wandering around the fair. He's having a nice time. He's looking at the birds. He's having a seat on the bench. He's like, this is a good day.
This is young Professor X.
Young Professor X. You know, he still doesn't have hair, but that's fine. And like some hot chick comes up to him. It's like, hey, what's up? And he's like, not much. I'm having a nice time. She's like, I could tell. You know, I see all these people around here, but then I see one guy. He's particularly happy. And I figure I got to come over and see what's going on with that because he's obviously having the best time at the fair. And like she starts chatting about like, you know, the stuff at the fair. And she mentions the fortune teller. Now, the only reason I'm going to mention this is because this set of imagery will come up later on, literally as they are. And then we'll actually see these things. We see the magician, the metamorph, the girl with 1 foot in 2 worlds.
Okay.
We'll see the tower, the axis, the pillar of collapse and rebirth, the monolith of ascension, and we'll see the devil, the red god, the lost cardinal of the last religion. Cool, right?
Okay.
You're like, what is this? What is happening?
Yeah, what?
Right.
Those are not normal tarot cards.
Right, exactly. Then this chick starts talking to him like as though she knows him. She drops his name as like Charles and being like, you know, listen, like I know you've got like this dream and all of that, but it's not a dream if it's real. And he's like, I'm sorry, do we know each other? And she's like, more than you could have possibly imagined. He's like, yeah, he's like, who are you? She's like, read my mind and find out. And he does. And we'll have to learn about that later on because we're not going to find out right now. Instead, we're going to go to X1, kind of the current. We're going to pick up where House of X left off with Mystique coming through the portal with Toad and being like, get the hell out of here, Toad. Because like literally they come in and it's like a scene out of Midsummer Night's Dream. There's like a bunch of X-Men like playing, like, you know, dancing around, whatever. Toad's like, right on, man. I'm
By the way,
going.
get used to seeing the X-Men like hedonistically dancing around like they're in Zion. Because
Yeah.
that's what Krakoa
just-
is.
Okay.
Yes.
Machines!
Mystique heads off to the House of M where she runs into Magneto and he's like, you got the stuff? And she's like, of course I got the stuff, but like I want more than what I was told I was going to have because we lost Sabretooth and like this was, you know, a lot of work,
Well,
let's be
also
honest.
Mystique, and I always want more.
I always want more.
Right.
And like it's essentially it's a
I'm
data
altering
stick.
the deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pray I don't alter it any further. And then Professor X shows up. As though he's in on this.
Right.
And he's just like, really? Is like helping your fellow mutant more than the great Raven Darkholm could ask for? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a jackass.
Yeah, no, I do want more.
I wasn't like this because I was against humanity. I'm like this because I'm like this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. So like Xavier indicates that like further in the future will demand more, and then she throws it right back at him, asking like, isn't like helping your fellow mutant more than the great Charles Xavier could ask for? He's just like, if we want to make the world better, everyone is going to owe something. And I'm like, so what now, Chuck?
Yeah, whoa.
What?
Classic Xavier.
Classic, loving, understanding
Yeah.
Xavier, who inputs his data stick, and then we flash forward to X1, where we see an apocalyptic-looking future, where there is some sort of 3-headed android and some like person with a mask and like blonde hair hovering over an individual who says, "While you slept, the world changed." Which I was like,
Okay.
say what now? Well, we talked about that already.
Yeah, that's what Xavier
that's
said.
Charles says.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But we're in the future now. What the hell?
Yeah.
This individual is dying, and these people want to grab its memories, but they can't. There's already a protocol happening in their brain that is making their memories erase. So you're like, oh, what the hell is this? But hey, there's another one over here. The chick is like, I know this one. It's cool. This one's name is Silabelle. She was born in the kennel. And you're like, what the hell's a kennel? Because this is
we're
Hickman.
we're in the future. What the
Well, hey, it's future words. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Sounds very apocalypse-ish.
Right? So the plan is that they're going to take this one, this black brain, as she's called, and they're going to give her a bath. And they're going to get the information that they need from her. You see a Sentinel in the background. You see some folks looking on. And what do you see? But remember those 3 tarot cards at the beginning? We see the Magician and we see the Devil.
Yeah.
know what?
Hey, there they are.
There they are. Wow. Okay, cool.
We didn't waste time getting those characters.
What is happening here? They are able to communicate telepathically with one another. Silabelle's like, you got to get out of here. You cannot help me. It's fine. The chick you see is Rasputin. Rasputin is like, I'm not leaving without you. And the guy you see here is Cardinal. And Cardinal's like, we have to leave. Like,
Are they? Do we know who they are?
No, they're brand new
okay.
characters, but they are visual indicators of characters you do know. Rasputin,
Right.
of course, is Colossus' last name.
Right.
She has like steel powers, so you're like, oh, Colossus, okay. He obviously looks like Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler, of course, is also super like religious. So the cardinal name is evoking like the imagery of Nightcrawler. So you're
Okay.
like, oh, okay. I think I know what's going on, but I really have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So Cardinal has this like plant-looking artichoke thing where she's gonna plant and grow a gate. So you're like,
Oh, Krakoa made it.
We're talking about Krakoa now. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Rasputin's not giving up on Cylobel, and she races into attack. She starts kicking ass, taking names. She's actually doing pretty good until a Sentinel like drops his hand down on her.
Yeah.
But she's actually able to like fight it back. But while she is distracted fighting the Sentinel, Cylobel is put into a bubble and pulled away, and she's taken, whilst Rasputin is like run by other individuals. Rasputin will throw them off, and it's fine, but like whatever.
Yeah.
Then we get a little indicator of what is happening. Who are these people? Who is Rasputin? Who is Cardinal? They're Chimera, and Rasputin is made up of 5 different mutants. That includes Quentin Quire, Rasputin, Metamorph. Clearly, it's obviously Colossus, yet she carries the sword of magic.
And she's a Rasputin too, because
Yeah.
of course Magic's Colossus'
So
sister. So
she could be Magic Rasputin instead, or what's her name?
Ileana.
Ileana Rasputin. Bane.
Oh.
I don't know.
there are other characters you can use with that name.
It's not even spelled the same. Kitty Pryde and Laura Kinney.
Who's Laura Kinney?
X-23. So she has a healing
Oh.
factor from that, and from Kitty Pryde she'd become intangible.
Okay.
So she's like unstoppable.
She should be.
So she's a 3rd generation Chimera.
Okay.
There were 2 other generations before it that Mr. Sinister created.
Because Mr. Sinister, of course, being an X-Men villain, that character loves mutant genetics and mucking around with them.
Right. Okay.
Particularly Summer's DNA, but I don't see any in this.
No, well, not in this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we also find out on this info dump page that literally there were 4 different generations of Chimera that were created. Upon the 4th generation of Chimera, where they decided to take what they had learned from the previous generations, they decided to start pulling Omega level mutants into there. They were flawed, and like it ended up killing most of the people who were left, or most of the mutants that were left, destroying the Mars breeding pits. And then it was determined, like, oh, Sinister planned this the entire time.
Well, because we saw that like they were building
building
portals
stuff
all
on
over the place,
Mars.
including Mars. So
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact is, Sinister was always going to screw them over, and he did. Fun fact, he was later dispatched immediately after he defected over to the current government.
Oh.
They were like, we can't trust him.
Yeah.
He's an asshole.
Why would Sinister do that?
Because he's an asshole.
Right.
So also, just to make mention, Cardinal is also a 3rd generation Chimera, but he's an outlier.
Yes.
9% of the 3rd generation Chimera who were built for war, like Rasputin is built to fight. She has like a feeling within her that she must do that. She must protect. She must battle. He's a pacifist. He literally can't go past that. He can't fight because
Yeah.
it just like 9% of them just can't fight.
I really like. It's like a little indication. There's like a subset of the populace when you're born. You're like there's something different about a small percentage of the population.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
see, Cypher, you don't have to feel so bad now.
Right, and Rasputin hates him for it because she's like, if you had stepped up, we wouldn't have lost Cylobel.
He's like,
Right.
I'm literally genetically predisposed to
Yeah.
not.
I'm one of the 9%. What do you
Right.
want?
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So then we cut to this
You and
tower.
your 9%. You're always talking about your 9%.
I was just saying.
I give 9% of a rat's ass about your 9%.
So we go to this tower. Remember, we saw the tower card, which is the human-machine monolith, because we are existing in a human or man-machine supremacy.
Yeah.
What?
Like a man hybrid.
Yes, in
Kinda-
which
kinda
humans and
cyborg thing.
machines
Have
are working together to kill the
fused.
mutants.
Oh.
And so, like, the chick that we saw earlier is bringing forth Cylobel. She's a human. She's bringing her forth to Nimrod,
Yes.
who is working with the Omega level, or the Omega Sentinel.
I can't take Nimrod seriously.
I know.
That's
The
okay.
name
Nimrod
of
doesn't take
Nimrod.
himself seriously.
Yeah, this Nimrod
Nimrod's
is...
like a child in this. Like, he's just like, he's having a good time. He's in charge of all this crap, right? But like, he's also like really bizarre. So like, they know that like Cylobel knows what the mutants were doing, because the mutants were actually breaking in to steal something, and Nimrod wants to know what it is. What were you trying to steal? What was it? I should know everything. I'm Nimrod, right? They tried to get her to tell the information, and they know based on the fact that she is a black brain, which was something that the man-machine supremacy actually created themselves, kind of akin to what Sinister was doing. They created mutants kind of like the Terminators in order to get into mutant culture and then kill them from the inside. But what ended up happening was they sent the Black Brains in there, and the mutants were able to be like, why are you doing this? You're one of us. And so they all flipped. And they just went and worked
They
with the
literally
mutants.
created an entire generation of Terminators that like just flipped on them.
They're like, oops.
Hey, wait, yeah.
I really like just, hey, wait, yeah.
So
do the Black Brains? Do they have the X gene? Are they actually?
I think
mutants,
that they
or
are.
They just imitate.
Yeah,
They're
mutants in some
bred
way?
from, because Nimrod has like a collective database of mutant DNA as
Okay.
well.
So I
So
guess he
like,
got from Sinister back in the day.
right? So like he like is able to utilize that to help to create them, or the kennels were able to do that. They're called hounds. That's why they're building kennels and they're hounds, right? And like the idea was that their brains were not, they wouldn't be red, and so like when the mutants would show up, they couldn't be like a telepath couldn't tell where they came from.
Oh, right. Okay.
So regardless,
Brains.
like Nimrod's like, hey, sorry about what I did to you. Like that wasn't cool or anything like that. But hey, listen, just tell me what I want to know, and I'll make your death pretty quick. And she's like, I'm never going to tell you anything. He's like, that's the spirit. Anyway, the bath is brought up. Nimrod's like, oh, can we do that? Can we? Come on.
Yeah,
I
like
wanna do
that image
it.
of Nimrod like doing a little jig. I'm like, what the crap?
And like the Mega Sentinel's like, fine. He's like, yeah, awesome.
So, who's in charge? Is Omega Sentinel in
Omega
charge?
Sentinel's
Is Nimrod in
technically Nimrod's technically in charge.
Okay.
But,
He's
like-
also like infinitely wise. Like he knows everything. Like he's a supercomputer.
okay.
But like he's also a jackass.
Kind of an idiot, but like not, I guess. I don't know. So this tube like rises up out of the floor in this grand show. They inject Cylobel with something, and then they drop her into it, right? And like Nimrod's like, I'm really sorry for about what's about to happen to you, but like, sorry, that's what's
I'm
gonna
not
happen.
sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not
yeah.
sorry. And what happens is they drop her into this tube, and the idea is that like whatever's in the tube is going to just eat away at her slowly and leave only the information left. And while it could take forever, Nimrod's okay with it because what does he care?
He
He's
will
a
live
machine.
forever.
Right.
He's just
okay.
like, what-
I
what's-
got
what's
all
for-
the time in the world.
Right, like what's forever
yeah.
to a human or a mutant is like nothing to him.
Yeah.
Right, but the humans are working with him.
Right, well, he
So
doesn't
there's
really
a-
give a shit
well,
about
yeah,
them.
The
we
human
care
nano-
how long it takes. Wait a second.
Right, but like, they're like,
I guess the humans are the second bananas.
yeah, they
in
really
there.
are.
Yeah.
No, they really,
That's
really
what happens
are.
when you make
So-
a deal with the robot devil.
Well, is the idea here that like humans turn to machines because that was the only way to survive against the mutants?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so
Makes sense.
Rasputin and Cardinal return back to Krakoa, where they are greeted by Wolverine and Magneto and what looks like Groot and Zorn. They're like, did you get it? Did you get what we were looking for? Like, was it worth it?
Right.
Like, we lost, like, Percival, who was the guy we saw at the beginning, and we lost Cylobel. What, did we get it? And they're like, yeah, we got it. This is kind of like what Mystique was just doing.
yeah.
Right? Like, we're getting
Yeah.
a little bit of that. They lost Sabretooth, you know, she comes back. Was it worth it? Yeah, whatever. So then Wolverine's like, all right, the old man's waiting for you.
Okay.
Oh.
And so then we go to X3, year 1000. We see Cylobel in a tube, still breaking down. And we see this...
It has been 900 years.
Yeah. We see this, like, blue-headed individual, like, sitting there being like, oh, we're going to lose the information that this individual had, and there's nothing I can do about it. And we see this little tiny thing that looks like Nimrod. Because it is.
It's a little floating Nimrod. Like he's
It's not a
evolved.
spore.
Nope, it's just a little Nimrod-y thing. And he's talking to this person, I think it's a dude, and they call them the librarian. And you're like, oh, okay, what? And we see that in this far-flung future, there's still a tower, and like they're chatting about the human-machine mutant wars, and how could anyone have foreseen how it was going to end? Nimrod's like, Homo sapiens, glad we're done with those.
Yeah.
Glad that's over.
Right.
And like the librarian's like, you really can't ever be done with something like a legacy like that. Like you can't be done with the past. And then they see this like glowy egg thing that's called the preserve. And it's like, this is why we keep dinosaur bones.
Right.
And we kind of see into the preserve, and you see a couple of people in there like,
Like kind of like an Adam and Eve image of
Yeah.
like first man.
what's
Yeah.
happening here? And we end with a quote from Rasputin that says, "You've forgotten that machines have no soul, and that the humans lost theirs a long time ago."
The woman who was speaking with Professor X in the past, like in his right before
Yes.
he even like execute his dream,
Yeah.
is Moira McTaggart.
Okay.
Moira McTaggart, of course, was one of the few like humans as part of Xavier's execution of his dream. Part of like one of the humans that actually sided with Xavier from the beginning.
Okay.
Well, it turns out Moira McTaggart is getting a little bit of a retcon.
Oh.
No.
The first time that Moira McTaggart lived her life, she hit a certain age, the age that you develop mutant power, and she got really sick. And the next day, she woke up and she was better than ever. And she lived her life, and she had 2 boys and 1 girl, and she died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 74. And she had a mundane, regular people life.
Okay.
Nothing extraordinary at all happened to Moira McTaggart. In her second life, she awoke in the womb and realized that she was fully sentient and remembered her entire life from the previous experience.
Oh.
You'd think that being trapped in my mother's womb with all the previous knowledge of my past life would drive me insane, but it didn't.
Oh no, of course
no.
not.
So don't think that I'm crazy in this book.
No,
which
certainly
Sal
not.
certainly thinks is the impetus behind all of this. But don't think I'm crazy. I'll get ahead of that by saying I didn't go crazy because I was a mother. And mothers have this quiet contemplation, this zen-like zone you can get into that will allow you to endure a waking nightmare
For
of
9 months.
gestation. Well, she is formed. So my guess is she's probably like a month of this.
Yeah.
A day of this would crack me. So in her second life, she was a 74-year-old woman in the body of a small child.
Right.
And I love the image of like her cold, dead eyes as she's just playing with blocks because she's 75 and
Right.
She can't tell her parents.
well, yeah, and she can't, and she knows, like, we don't get like 2 lives wasted where like she's like, Mom and Dad, I'm 80 and you're gonna die of Alzheimer's. Like, there's no conversation there because she knows that like she'll get locked up.
Right.
It won't work.
Right.
So she just endures being a child, and she tries to keep it kind of stifled, but they keep
Yeah.
throwing words around like gifted and like intelligent
Right,
and
right.
advanced. And she's like, you'd think that now that I had all this information from my previous life, I could literally live the perfect life. I know where it all is going to go. I can right all the wrongs, but it didn't really work out. It was actually a curse. I know all the flaws of my husband and that he's not going to be able to change or adapt. So she eventually lost her love for him, and then no children came, and no one visited the house.
Wait, is this the same life?
No,
Like
it's
she's living the same decade?
Yeah, she goes back. She resets. That's her mutant power. Her mutant power is
Okay.
every time she dies, she resets, and the whole thing starts over again. Yeah, her power is she can reset freaking reality.
Okay. How many
Through her
times has she
lifetime.
done this?
So far, we're on 2.
Oh, okay.
But seemingly there is no end. So she decides after she abandons her life, she goes to Oxford.
Hang on, wait a second. What if she has the memories from the previous life? Why would anything be the same? Like, why would she even have the same husband?
Well,
She
no,
doesn't.
she doesn't. She meets that man and then goes, no.
And then
Oh,
she's
I
like,
see.
no, that's not, I
She
can't.
gets to the point in her life where she would have.
And she's like,
and
nope.
she's like, nah.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, she like seeks out to do it and then it just doesn't work out.
Right. She's like, I know who I'm gonna marry, so
Yeah.
I'll go find him.
Yeah.
And like,
she's like, oh, you chew with your mouth open. You're never gonna not do that.
And I know
It's
that.
over.
I see. Okay.
So one day she's like eating ice cream in front of the TV and she sees Professor X up there and he's like, I'm done hiding. I'm a mutant. Mutants are thing and I can read minds and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, there were mutants. That must be what I am. So she gets on a plane and she goes to see him and the plane crashes and she dies. So then the next time she goes to where he is also, she goes to Oxford where he is and she goes a little earlier. She skips that flight.
Wait a minute. She got to 74 before. How did she never hear of Professor X?
Because she lived a regular, mundane, quiet,
Because
off
even
the
if she
grid
did,
life.
she didn't know she had any
Yeah, she
powers.
was like, oh,
so it
cool,
didn't,
Professor X
like,
a mutant, good for him, whatever,
Okay.
who
So
cares?
she
Well,
knew
yeah.
about mutants and stuff, but it never like.
It never
Well,
really
she
crossed-
thought she was just a human in that first
Yeah.
life.
It didn't really affect her.
Right.
She
Oh,
paid attention to that
mutants,
news.
no.
Yeah.
She missed
Like,
that
oh, I heard
broadcast.
about the mutant problem, but I don't really watch the news.
Yeah. So she goes to school to
Oh my
meet-
God, I was a horrible person.
Yeah. She goes to meet Professor X, and she sees him kind of like doing his thing, being Professor X before he becomes Professor X, and he's like this braggart, and she knows he's like a telepath, and he's like hiding and pretending, and she just like thinks he's a douche. She's like, oh, he can't teach me anything. In fact, he's a fraud and a jackass, and what I have is horrible, and it's like a disease. So she literally devotes her life to coming up with a cure for mutation, which she finds.
Oh my god.
Oh.
So she devises this cure with a gaggle of scientists, and she's like, yeah, we did it! Then the wall explodes, and Mystique and Destiny walk through it. Now, Mystique and Destiny have a complicated relationship, but the Destiny we've seen before, Mystique and Destiny, because those two were key players in the Days of Future Past storyline that we did. But Destiny's power, she can see into the future. So Destiny saw Moira, or rather, she saw what Moira was going to do, and she traced it back to Moira, because Moira has a block on her power that is part of her power. It's basically like, it's a failsafe that allows her power to be, because if Professor X could read her, he'd be able to stop her and her power wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it's a convenience thing in the power that allows it so that you can't track her, find her, or know that she's the reason why reality keeps setting.
Right, okay.
But Destiny
Like, you
knows...
can't tell that she's a mutant.
Right. It's why Professor X never, like, said in 1994 or 1982,
Right.
hey!
Right. So if he reads her mind, what does he see?
He just sees...
Does he see a black hole, or he just sees her
He just sees
current
her
life?
current life.
But he doesn't see any of her, like, knowledge that she has.
Unless she
Unless
wants
she
him to.
says that he
okay.
can.
Yeah.
All right.
So Destiny and Mystique are there, and they're like, hey, so you betray your own kind, and that's not cool, and I know that's going to happen because here I am, I'm Destiny,
Right.
and what you're going to do here is going to unmake all of us. You're going to screw it all up. And she's like, no. We have a disease. But some people like clearly like flying and stuff. Like, only if you elect to take this cure.
Right.
And she's like, you think they're going to let you just give it to people? They're going to make them take it. And it's going to unmake everything. And so here's the deal. You need to learn to like and care about our problem. Because if you don't, I'm going to find you. Because I think I know how your powers work. And here's the deal. If your powers don't manifest and you die for real. And then we're just stuck in this.
So if I kill a child,
Right.
Yeah, if I kill you, and I know who you are now, so if I go find you and kill you, it's over.
In the past.
In the past. Well, like when
Right.
you
No, in the next time.
when I kill you and you reset, I'll
Right.
come get you again.
Right. But this time I'll get you before
Yeah.
you... Okay.
So knock it off.
So knock it off. So you're gonna have to spend your life devoted to figuring out how to help your kind, because clearly you're a genius.
And you have forever to do
And
this.
you have forever to do it. So learn to care. And he's like, she's like, can I count on you? And she's like, I don't know. And she goes, well, you'll have time to think about it, because Pyro, burn her really slowly so she remembers what it's like to die like this.
Jeez.
don't forget she also drops one more thing.
The biggest thing, which is, you think you have forever. Well, you don't. Because I see 10 lives for you. Maybe 11 if you play your cards right. But I only see 10. And you've wasted 3. So don't
Get
screw
this
it
together.
up. Now burn her.
Slowly.
Slowly. So she burns, and then she wakes up and just abandons her family, steals their money, and goes to school and starts like working on science. Then she goes to Oxford, and she meets Professor X, and she talks to him for the first time, like for real. And she's like, oh my god, this guy's actually like good.
Like a good guy. Like what?
And ends up falling in love with him. And so in Life 4, Moira and Professor X end up lovers. And she helps form the X-Men, and in fact, things happen kind of the way we remember them to. He forms the original X-Men, they go to Krakoa and they get screwed up, the giant-size X-Men show up, hell, Avengers vs. X-Men happens, all the bullshit. Everything.
Okay.
Operation Zero Tolerance, the Messiah Complex, Deadly Genesis, it all happens.
So we get the Moira McTaggart that wants to help mutant kind.
Yes,
We
and-
think she's a human,
But in
and she's
tandem with Professor X, so this is probably Moira Xavier. The only difference is her name. And I guess Proteus doesn't exist. So then one day a Sentinel comes and kills everybody, and it's over. Life 5, she's like, okay, screw this. And so she goes to Professor X way before everything. She's like, read my mind. And he's like, oh shit, we all die. So then they bail, and they take all the mutants with them, and they go to like a kind of Attilan-esque city, like a bottle city, where they're just like, all the mutants go to this domed city over there, and we just leave everybody alone. Isolationism. Well, one day the Sentinels come and they kill everybody and it's over. So then, Life 6, we'll get into that. But we don't hear about it. Life 7, she's like, okay, the robots are the problem. So she becomes a super cool assassin, and she murders everyone in the Trask family, because the Trasks invent Sentinels. So she becomes a super duper cool Black Widow assassin. She's just literally assassinating all of the Trasks, the entire lineage of the Trask line. What she finds out is Trasks don't make Sentinels. Humans make Sentinels.
Right.
No. Masterminds make
Sentinels are like a
Sentinels.
natural
They're
evolution of
inevitable.
technology.
Master
Yeah,
molds.
they are inevitable.
Master molds.
Yeah. So she dies in a Sentinel plant. She's like, shit.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The mutant who could see the future, who
Destiny.
told her that Destiny. How
How would
she
she know?
see
Why wouldn't she keep doing this?
different futures that haven't
Oh,
happened?
it's the nature of her power.
Okay. Did she know she could do that? See,
I assume
alternate
she can't.
realities that
I
are...
assume
like
she
she
can't see
can't do
the
that for-
futures. I think she can see probably the number of times she will die.
Yes.
Or she can see an end.
So she can see her future.
Yes.
If she's talking to you. She's like, I know what's going to happen
That's right.
to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she has to be there.
Okay.
Yeah. So Life 8, Moira's like, okay, screw this, and she goes to Magneto. And she's like, the robots kill everybody, Xavier's a chode, also he's a small dick, and listen, just let's do this. And Magneto's like, oh, fuck that. So then Moira and Magneto team up, and Magneto just grabs a bunch of nukes and goes to the White House. Because, obviously, right?
That's his plan.
And the...
Wait. Why does he believe her? Professor X could read her mind.
I
I
think
get
it's
that.
because- I
She
think
goes
it's
to
because,
Magneto and is
well,
like,
she knows-
you gotta kill everyone.
She has a lot of, he doesn't really need a push.
No, he doesn't. But the fact that
thank you.
he gets a human to be like, this is what's going to happen to you, man. He's like, I'm in.
Also, not a
guess-
human.
She
She
could just tell
must-
him who wins the World Series
Right,
or whatever.
she
He's
must
okay, you
know enough about him.
Yes.
Which I love also that he grabs a bunch of nukes because that's very X-Men #1, the highest selling
Exactly.
comic book of all time. He does the same thing there.
Yeah. But this time he's going to use them. And so the combined might of the Avengers and the X-Men team up and beat Magneto. And they defeat Magneto and they arrest Moira because she's with them. I love she's riding a metal platform with him. But they defeat him in a book I'd love to read.
By the way, note the fact that the two frontrunners or forerunners here are Wolverine and Colossus. I'm like, what?
What?
Why are you ever
The
here
most metal characters.
Yeah.
when we're fighting Magneto? Why?
Well, they are wearing they're wearing their Dave Cockrum costumes. So obviously Magneto has not gotten the idea yet to pull his adamantium off his body.
Well, he should just use Wolverine as a weapon.
Yes, I just
spin him.
like a Tasmanian devil.
Maybe he already pulled his adamantium
No,
out
he
and this
clearly
is
has
bone
it.
claws.
No, you
it's-
can see it.
This is a pre. This is
And even
Well,
so,
it's still Colossus.
it's a fastball special right there.
yeah.
Yeah, but if Colossus threw Wolverine, who threw Colossus?
Yeah.
He throws them both.
Anyway, so she dies in prison because obviously.
Right.
And then the 9th time, she's like, okay, I don't have a lot of time left. I'll just call Apocalypse. Because, he's a mutant and I'm just trying to make it.
Right.
I'm just trying to save mutant kind. And I guess, listen, there's only two sides to that argument. It's either Xavier or Magneto or Apocalypse. So she goes with Apocalypse.
She only gets 10 lives at the same
Maybe
time.
11.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But the thing is how will you know if you saved mutant kind? You'll still die.
Yeah, but I keep dying before I win.
Right.
You'll never know if you win.
So anyway, she joins Apocalypse and she becomes kind of like a lady Apocalypse, and they lose because here we are in that future from Pox and friggin' it looks like it because there's Nimrod.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and then that's that. And then after she loses with Apocalypse, she wakes up and she's like, okay, no, that is not gonna work. I'm gonna break all the rules.
I'd go back to Charles.
Yeah, we cut back to the beginning of Pox where she's talking to Xavier on the bench and she's like, why don't you read my mind and find out? And I love that image of him going,
Yeah.
that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I thought he meant because he just shit himself by seeing all of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like,
yes.
oh,
that's
you
the
tried
thing.
everything, and none of it worked.
Literally, this is the day, the moment where he's smiling sitting on the bench is the day he's figured it out.
Yeah, he's like,
Figured out his dream.
this is my dream.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Oh.
Your dream is a failure from the get-go
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
No.
Not just your dream, Apocalypse's dream,
Magneto's
dream, all mutant dreams.
Yeah. So that
Never
wraps
work.
up, and we get like this kind of like wrap up. Here's all the lines and all the books that Marvel will inevitably publish, because not only do they explain life 1 through 10, excepting life 6. What was life 6?
Oh.
Hickman's not ready to tell you yet, but it just keeps going. We got like key moments
wow,
in each
it's got
one.
the whole timeline.
Yeah, the whole timeline.
No one wants to read year 1. I'm sorry.
Well, no, the one about like an old lady.
I had a normal life.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, someone will read that.
Yeah. So, but it keeps going, and then we move on.
So we're back in the past, and we see Moira and Charles together, and they're
They're a
going.
little older, by the
They're a
way.
little older, and he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they go to Island M. Magneto's there, and he's like, "What are you doing here, Charles?"
We haven't scheduled a fight for today.
Yeah. And Charles is like, "I'm here for you, old friend. Come on, man. You gotta join me. It's cool. What if I told you we were both wrong? What if I told you that in the coming days, you and I, this dream is not gonna work?"
Yeah.
And like Magneto's like, "Oh, you're losing your faith. Cool."
This is the gravy on the potatoes.
Yeah,
for me.
and then Magneto's like, he's just antagonizing everybody. He's like, "Oh, Dr. McTaggart, you're like a specialist in behaviors of mutants. Like, what do you think? What's your insight into the good professor? Blah blah blah." Right? So then inevitably, Xavier's like, "Let me just show you," and he uses his mind and he holds Moira's hand and he shows Magneto
Yeah.
What's in her head?
what's
he
happening.
begs him. He's like, one last time, like, trust me.
Yeah.
He takes
Right.
off his helmet because, of course, it blocks his psychic powers.
Yeah.
So it's
Right,
like,
right.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to take over your body.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. So now Magneto sees all of his futures.
Yeah.
And like Magneto's like, "You're a mutant, Moira McTaggart." What the? That's his initial. Like,
Yeah.
"You're a mutant?
Yes.
Really? All right." And she's like, "Yep, I'm a mutant, but like, here's the thing."
What do you think about all the rest of it? though?
Yeah, what are you thinking? And like Charles is like, "We always lose when we're apart. So what if we just join forces and we'll make this work?" And he's like, "Just join me." And like he's
on,
like,
just join
and like Magneto's like, "I will, but like, I'm not going to sympathize or have any doubt. I'm not going to give you an inch, and I'm always going to check you at every moment. Like I'm going to be up your ass at every turn. All right?"
Yep.
And like Charles
no
is like,
doubt.
Charles, you asked for this.
Yeah.
and he's just like, "I would expect nothing else." And they shake hands, and you're like,
Yay.
okay.
That's the foundation of the reality we're in right now.
Yeah, exactly. Then we cut to X1, current time. Mystique had that data stick. They plugged it in. They got some info. The info is Mother Mold is coming online.
Yep.
Okay.
What are we going to do about this?
They found out about Orcus and Mother Mold, and so
Okay, so Mother Mold didn't happen in any of Moira's previous timelines.
no, Mother Mold is the catalyst for those timelines.
Yeah, you'll find out. Like,
okay.
this is this will unfold as we go along here.
Moira's playing the long game.
This is the long game. So essentially, they're like, they had things in place to let them know when this would happen. Like, there were feelers out there of like when Mother Mold-esque technology would come
Yeah,
online.
it's like Moira told them all, like, okay, so put a person here, and
Right.
tell me if you hear anything
Well,
like
really, it's
AI or.
Well, it's like they could sense the tech leaps. They're like, they
Yeah.
can see it coming because it all unfolds. And they're like,
Right.
okay, if Mother Mold comes online, next generation Sentinels will occur, and then Nimrod will occur. And that's the end.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, Scott's like, oh, he sees Nimrod. He's like, oh.
Oh, I've seen that before.
This guy?
Yes.
This guy, he's so,
like-
lame.
So Xavier's like, listen, like, Scott, we got to stop it, okay? Like, it has to, like, we have to put an end to this. Magneto's like, can we do this? Can you guys, can you do this for us, Scott? And this is, I love this moment because Cyclops looks at them and he's just like, does it need doing? They're like, yeah. And he's like, then it'll be done. And you're like, oh, okay.
I love it. He's a perfect disciple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, he's just like, okay, I'm not just serving Xavier, I'm also serving Magneto. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a soldier.
All right,
done
chill
that.
this
Said
baby.
he was cool, so he's
Go
cool.
on.
Back in X2, in the year 100, Wolverine brings Rasputin and Cardinal to the old man, who is Apocalypse. And Apocalypse is like,
I'm
cool.
sorry. Wolverine's still alive?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we saw him earlier with Green Magneto. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Green Magneto, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a brain fart.
Well, there's a lot of timelines.
Yeah,
So Apocalypse has this tiny little data thing that they have. It's not as small. It's literally like the data stick that Mystique had, but like in his
In his
hands, it's
hands,
like
yeah.
it's like this big. And he's just like, wow, okay, we got this thing. This is awesome. Listen here, kiddies. Like, this little thing right here, I would have sacrificed all of you for this.
Like, thanks. We got it.
Cool.
Man.
Yeah.
Is he the one that was creating the Chimera mutants?
No, that's Sinister.
That was
Sinister's
Sinister.
making the Chimera.
But like under Apocalypse's rule?
No. Well,
Probably under whoever was in charge of mutant kind, which seemingly was Apocalypse and Moira, in order to create foot soldiers to fight against the man-machine supremacy.
yes.
Because the only book I ever had was Age of Apocalypse
I know.
based,
Yeah.
and Sinister and
Apocalypse.
were working together in that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, here's the thing: Sinister wasn't really working with anybody,
no.
except for himself.
Well, and he did that in the Age of
and then he
Apocalypse,
died
too.
anyway. So eat it,
That's right.
Red Diamond freak.
How did Moira know what happened in the far future?
When she was Apocalypse changed, like, she could live.
Oh, like he gave her like long life or whatever.
You'll find out.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Nimrod's like just kind of like chatting in general how he's like really concerned about what they were looking for. There's like a couple of human dudes who are just kind of like, oh, I really don't want to be here. And so he just kills them.
Oh, sweet.
And then he like has a Hamlet moment where he's like talking to one of their skulls where he's just like, I really should know everything you guys are doing and I don't, and that really bothers me. It really bothers me a lot.
All right, Nimrod.
So
Are
then
we gonna get a brother eye, Nimrod?
Nope.
No,
Then we go
thank
back
God.
to Asteroid K, Asteroid Krakoa, and we see that Groot-like figure. It's Krakoa. All right, I'm not gonna mince like words here. It's Krakoa and Cypher simultaneously.
Yeah.
Oh.
And,
That's how Cypher lives. He gets enveloped by Krakoa.
yeah. And
Gross.
they take the data that they have, and like basically what it is, they're looking for something very specific. But the problem is the machines are literally archiving every single thing that happened. So even if they knew exactly when something happened,
There's
there'd be
petabytes
it'd
of
be
data.
like a ridiculous amount of data that they had to go through. So instead, what they did was they went into the information or the place where everything was indexed, and they're going to go into that way, and they're going to find out where this piece of information actually is, and then go grab it. So they use this like index data to find out where they need to go. But the problem is, in order to get back in there, they needed Percival, because Percival, the mutant who died earlier, like in the fight, the
Quoted
guy
Xavier.
Yeah.
was able to mask their being there. Like he was able to use his abilities so that nobody could see them really, like, with tech, I suppose, until you actually physically saw them with your eyeballs.
Right.
And so it's like, we need to do this, but what are we gonna do? Also, Zorn's a nihilist, by the way. Just so you know.
with a face like that, yeah.
Like he's just constantly waiting for his death.
Okay.
Like he's just like, death will come and it's gonna be awesome.
That's fair.
So essentially, Wolverine's like, it's not gonna matter that we have this information, because even if we get it, A, I doubt we're gonna get there, and B, how are we gonna get back with what we need? And Apocalypse is like, it's cool, the big leagues are coming in because I'm gonna go with you, and I will guarantee that we're going to get this info.
I
And
can
you're
guarantee you safety. Wolverine's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. So then we're going to jump to X3, which is the year 1000. But before we do that, we need a quick info dump about the fact of like what a Nimbus is. And a Nimbus is honestly that kind of like little Nimrod-y looking thing they kind of refer
little
to.
guy who's
Yeah,
like,
they kind of refer to that. But what Nimbus is that post-humanity decided that they wanted to, after the Badoon infestation of the early 31st century,
Oh no, not the Badoon!
that they wanted to gain the attention of larger intelligences out there. And so they created a false world mind. Which is like, basically they took 100 of the greatest post-human scientists, scholars, and artists of their generation. They copied them. They sent this information out there on a machine called Nimbus, a thinking machine, which then found Nibiru and converted that world and turned it into this world mind, this like artificial thinking superintelligence.
Okay.
Just keep that in the back of your head. They did that, and they did it on purpose because it's a little. It was like a little calling card.
Yes.
They're looking to get a little attention.
It's like our Voyager spacecraft.
Right.
Yeah.
But way more
It's like
sophisticated.
showing a little leg.
Yeah. Look how smart we are.
So now we're going to see the ramifications of that, and that like typically a civilization of this advancement would only attract universal predators, but you guys kind of skipped past all of that, because like typically people will be trying to use your civilization for resources, but instead you decided to go forth and try to snare a giant. And you're asking me if it worked? Well, let's find out, because we see this like black inky void coming for this planet, right? And you're like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden it coalesces in front of them and says like, we, Phalanx, ate your world mind. And you're like, I'm sorry, they were courting the Phalanx?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the Phalanx?
The Phalanx is like, it's like a tech god essentially out there. The Phalanx is like,
Is it one of the Celestials?
Nope.
No.
We're going to get this whole planetary society thing of like societies of different sizes where it's like machine, hive, a super intelligence, like the Kree super intelligence.
Yes.
Right? That's the next step. Then a Technarch, the world mind, and then a Phalanx, which will collect world minds and then take them and pass them on to the next set of things. There are 3 more things that come after that. The final thing is a Dominion, which is essentially like nigh on to becoming a god.
Yes.
Okay.
Prior to that,
Has the Phalanx been in books before?
We
Yeah.
had the
Yes.
Phalanx before,
Okay.
but it hasn't been like this.
no, this is like
And I'm sure that Cypher is also integral to Krakoa because he has Warlock, who is part of the Phalanx.
yep.
To link it to that, but I love it because like this Phalanx looks nothing like Warlock's Phalanx.
Okay.
But we still preserved the look of Warlock's Phalanx, so I'm sure it's all connected.
Right. So
Or I'm sure that Hickman threw away the old Phalanx stuff and just created it with
they at one point do kind of shift how they look slightly, and it
Yes.
looks a little more
Little more
akin
like
to
that.
Warlock.
Yeah.
So the Phalanx basically shows up, and they're going to judge a society on whether or not it's worth consuming. If it is, ascension will occur, and if not, they'll be destroyed, and their like techno-organic material or whatever will be repurposed and removed.
Yes. They will add their distinctiveness to their own.
I see.
and they'll be added to the collective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you either get to become one of us or we destroy you.
Yeah.
We use whatever you have that is useful for like,
Yeah, for
Right.
matter, for resources and for.
So each of these is like a
I don't know which is worse.
each of these is like a growth step. So there's like a machine, it's a solitary thing. A hive is a collection of machines. A super intelligence is an amalgam of at least 100 machines acting towards a collective goal, which is why they needed the 100 minds.
to make the world mind.
Okay.
Oh.
Right before, that's why they had to send like the scientists and all the copies of their brains out there, was in order to create this super intelligence. A Technarch is an artificial collection of intelligences. I think this one is, it believes that it's the only Technarch in existence. It can't recognize that there could be others. Then there's a world mind, which took a super intelligence, which was what they started with when they took their intelligences, put it into Nimbus and sent it out there. Once it converts a celestial object, it becomes a world mind.
Okay.
It
Right?
needs a world to become a
A
world.
world-sized object.
Yes, and then we get the Phalanx, and then we kind of see this breakdown.
Gotcha.
Okay?
This is all important because not only did Hickman put a lot of effort into it, but also clearly it's where things are headed, and the structure is important to remember.
We'll see a lot of echoes
Exactly.
throughout, so it's kind of interesting to pay attention to these things. Also, Technarchs work for Phalanx, but they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right. So the Phalanx show up and they're like, "What's up? What do you want?" And the blue people, the elder of the blue people, are like, "Ascension." The elder of the post-humanity civilization.
Right.
They want the ascension.
Yeah.
So they know. There's like.
Yeah,
They know.
We called you.
They actively courted the Phalanx.
Right.
Which you really shouldn't.
It just seems like a bad idea, right?
Right. Well, do they want ascension? They're trying to avoid something.
They just know it's the next step.
Yeah.
I
they're-
see.
It's
Like,
not so
I'm
much-
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not hiding from Galactus.
Which, by the way, I love these end quotes, because the end quote from this is actually from Professor X talking about Magneto, but it really talks about all of this, which says, "You must see by now there is no you and I, there is only us. We are together or we are nothing," which is what becoming the Phalanx is.
Yeah, it's what the blue
Yeah.
people think their existence should be.
So then we cut back. This is the next issue. We cut back to X2, year 100. We're in the Temple of Concordance and the Church of Ascendancy. So this is the apocalypse stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And this dude shows up and he's like a robot man. And he's just like, "Hey, yo, you need to understand that we are the masters of all of this. And the machines are nigh onto gods, and you need to just get with it. It's like a religion."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it
look
is
at
a
my pretty
religion.
vestments.
Yeah, check it out, right? And he's got this orb of inky blacky stuff.
It looks like the Phalanx.
Right? And he's just you need to understand, these genetic manipulators and free thinkers, you think that you know what's up and you want to believe their lies and stuff like that, but you can't, because let me show you what true evolution is. And
They
then
have this dark baptism.
they have this baby and they shoot it with stuff, and then he's half machine and half human or organic.
Yeah.
But
Boom!
Yeah, kabam! There you go. And then he's like, you know what really sucks though is that like, it's not the pain that I caused making it this. It's knowing that like you live in this dichotomy that there's something like within you that's perfect and it's trapped and you can never be that. A wall explodes and like Magneto, Zorn, Rasputin, and
The
Cardinal are
X-Men
there,
show up.
and they're like, "Sup." So we get a kind of breakdown of the living soul mutants because again, there are other mutants living in the Shi'ar Empire and like mutants someplace else, but like things aren't going so well for them anyway. Like, so
It all rests here.
Yeah.
it like weirdly all rests here, even though there's more of them. But I think they know that like this has to come to an end.
Yes.
Right. And we clearly see like the Apocalypse like symbol up here because Apocalypse later on wants to be known as the symbol, and you're like, I'm not
going to say that.
Yeah. So Apocalypse has his horsemen because Apocalypse can't go anywhere without his horsemen. Nope. His entourage. Wolverine, who's a pureblood mutant. Zorn, again pureblood mutant, and then not pureblood mutants, a second-gen Chimera, which a second-gen Chimera can only be made up of 2 different mutants. So our Magneto is not actually Magneto. It's Dane and Frost, whose name is North, but it looks like Magneto, which is why we're calling him Magneto. Because
He's wearing his outfit.
You're not going to remember North.
Now, by the way, Wolverine has been a horseman of the Apocalypse before.
Yes. Yeah, he's done this before. He's ridden this horse.
Okay.
And then the last one would be the Krakoa Cipher. Symbiotic. It's not a chimera. They're living off of one another.
Right.
And then we have the other group, which are Silabel, Percival, which they're gone, Rasputin and Cardinal, and their mother, Akaba, which is the name of a location, but in this is a pureblood mutant.
Yeah. What?
What? Anyway.
Well, just like maybe Krakoa was a living place.
Yeah.
It's either
Akaba
that.
is also a living place.
Yeah.
We'll answer that question in a minute.
So anyway, Omega Sentinel is like, oh, there's been an attack on the Church of Ascendancy. It's on fire. And like, Nimrod's like, I am like really busy trying to figure out what the mutants are after.
There are all kinds of designs in the air, and I'm touching them.
And
Like
like,
Iron Man.
I'm Tony Starking it up.
yeah, she's like, yeah, but like, the mutants are the ones who are attacking. They don't usually attack the humans.
Right.
And then he's just like, all right, listen, you want to waste your time figuring that out? That's fine. You go CSI Omega Sentinel over there, and I'm gonna solve this whole thing. You just wait and see.
Right.
So she's like, all right. So like she heads off to take care of that with her little like jetpack, and like Nimrod's like, I'm good. I can figure this out. Thanks. Whatever. So meanwhile, we cut back to our
Fight
at the church, yeah, and like Cardinal's actually killing people, and like the guy who was performing the baptism was like, how could you do this?
You're one of the 9%.
You're a pacifist. He's like, no, it's cool. See, what I did was right before we decided to do this, I took a terminal apocalypse seed, which overwrote my like genetic code or like predisposition to being a pacifist, and now I'm not.
Oh.
Oh, cool. Good.
I'm just not now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could have done this earlier.
Well, I guess he probably didn't want to, but now he recognized
I think for
that he
what it
needs
is,
to.
yeah, like they're
probably
nothing
kills
kind of
you.
thing.
they're out of folk.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, I'm sorry, you're gonna need to step up. You can't just be the guy who plants the seed anymore.
Right.
You got to be the guy who uses his sword, like Nightcrawler, and stabs people in the throat.
Okay.
All right? You throat stabbies.
Okay.
So, meanwhile, the guy who is performing the baptism is just like, you think you're so freaking great, but just wait till God shows up. And he's like, who the hell is God? And then the Sentinel and an Omega Sentinel show up, or she does. And he's like, she's here now. Right? So, like, they're like, cool. And Zorn's like, hooray! Sweet death has finally come. It's going to be great.
God damn it, so get your head in the game.
Yeah. Well, Rasputin is like that. She's like, Zorn, if you could just keep it together for a few seconds more. Just, we need to buy them time because we cut to this like server room where like Wolverine, the Krakoa Cipher hybrid, and Apocalypse are like, okay,
All right.
here we go.
Let's pull off this heist.
Yeah. All right, you son of a bitch. I'm in. So like what they're trying to find is to pinpoint the exact moment that Nimrod came online. What causes Nimrod to come online? What is the beginning of the end for us?
Jean Grey!
As they're accessing the information, Nimrod's still trying to piece everything together, and he's just like, all of a sudden all these alerts go off, and he's like, whoa, what is this? What are they doing here? And he's just like, oh. So he goes there. Nimrod doesn't actually figure out anything until it's really presented before him.
Yeah.
So Krakoa's Cipher finds the crystal that they need,
Because it's based off like Kryptonian technology or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's based probably off of Shi'ar
Yes.
Data crystals
It
or
is,
whatever they
actually.
are.
Yeah, they are.
As they're like grabbing it, Wolverine's like, I smell something. Something's wrong. And like there's a huge explosion, which Wolverine is of course caught up in. And so like he's like falling apart, like muscles are exposed, and Nimrod's like, hey guys, what you doing here? And he's just like, what are you guys looking for? I wonder what it could be, huh? Anyway, back in the other fight, everyone but Rasputin is down.
Yeah.
Because Rasputin is actually kind of badass, and I legitimately love her design. I love her powers. I really like everything about her.
Yeah.
She carries a big sword.
Yeah.
Well, it's magic sword.
Yeah, blue magic
Exactly.
is cool.
Yeah, she is a badass. And like she's holding her sword aloft, and like she's like, stay back. Just stay where you are. It'll make Sentinel's like, why? What do you like, Nimrod found out where your folk are. He's already taken care of that. Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, I recommend you stay back because behind Zorn's mask is a singularity, and I will rip this thing off, and I will black hole us. I will black hole us right now. And like she's like, a singularity, really? And Mega Sentinel's like, you mutants have like this real issue with hanging on when you really shouldn't be anymore. You're not gonna use it. And she's like, oh yeah? Rip. And like Zorn's like, haha, and we see his face and he's like grinning underneath it. And like literally they become a black hole. And like she kills everybody in that room.
Wow. Okay.
I'm like,
Dope.
And like the entire planet, right?
no, it's like it's localized enough. Like it's not like gigantic. It's fine. Listen, don't think too much about it.
It's like a building-sized area
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right. So Omega Sentinel's gone.
Yeah. So back with the fight with Apocalypse and Nimrod actually gets Apocalypse gets a good hit off of him, and like he knocks Nimrod away, and he's got the crystal, and like he's like, here, take it,
Wolverine.
you,
With your good arm.
yeah. He's just like, no, you go, I'll stay. And Apocalypse is like, really? You've got like one arm. Like,
You're
What are you gonna
Wolverine.
do?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna shove this crystal inside your muscles.
There you go.
No.
Go.
Just hang
run.
on to that. He's like, don't worry, I'll be right behind you. And I was like, that's like Apocalypse. Like,
I
I'm
guess
like,
in
wow.
like 800 years or whatever, he learned to be a decent guy.
He's like a cool dude.
Yeah.
So then the Krakoa cipher like proves it, like he's actually a portal. And so he opens himself up, and Wolverine goes through, and he looks back, and he just sees like these three Nimrods beating the hell out of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like they're just taking him down, and like Nimrod's just being a dick. He's just like, oh, the mutant immortal, older than the world, the fittest of all, and I'm just kicking the shit out of you. And like, wow.
Do you even lift, bro?
Yeah. Do you even immortal? I don't think so. Let me show you what it is to be a Nimrod. While this is going on, it's interspliced with Wolverine arriving back at Krakoa, and there's like a sarcophagus in front of him.
Apocalypse loves his Egyptian.
He loves
Yeah.
this whole thing. And like Apocalypse, by the way, gets a couple of licks in on Nimrod before they grab him and they take him down. And like he basically like Nimrod's like, it must be really sad for you to know that this is where natural selection brought you. You thought that you were the end of all things, but you weren't. It's me, dick. So then Wolverine opens the Apocalypse, and it's Moira, and she's inside the sarcophagus, and like Wolverine's like, it's time to wake up, Moira. Apocalypse built this suit so that you could quickly like absorb this information because we didn't know how much time we had. And he takes the crystal and he puts it in there, and like we see her have the memories. It's painful, and Wolverine's like, "You got it?" She's like, "Mm-hmm." And he's like, "Now what?" And he's just like, "Well, we would only succeed if we send you on your way because there's nothing left here." He's like, "I'm sorry," and he like pops his claws, and she's like, "No, it's cool. Like, this is what you do."
Let's do what I do.
So we have and so ended the ninth life of Moira X.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
That
So
was
this was
like 9.
all to give her information to
About
try
Nimrod.
to avert
Yeah.
Okay.
Nimrod.
Which we saw them freaking out about Mother Mold coming online because Mother Mold is the indicator that the next
Nimrod.
step is Nimrod. And they can't
okay.
stop that.
Right.
And so they have to stop it where they can.
Right.
And so we see,
Then fill in Life 9.
so remember before Life 9 had the arrows
yeah.
because it hadn't ended yet.
Right.
And so we see that finally this is how it all went down. The Apocalypse War begins. We see the capital cities of Akaba, Kir, and Tian taken, and like it just goes on. And then inevitably, like Mr. Sinister gets involved, and like Nimrod comes online in year 15. That's when they're like, okay, what led to it? This is what led to it. The fourth Chimeras, the fall of the original Horsemen, blah 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 blah, till she dies with the origin of Nimrod. And you're
Right.
like, cool.
So Cyclops is like, okay, I've got the team. We're ready to go. We're going to get into our retrofitted Blackbird Shi'ar Tech spaceship that's going to go to the sun and go break the mother mold. So Archangel's like, yeah, why don't we use the special space plants we got that like let us go and back so we can leave when we kill the thing? And they're like, we can't risk that falling into their hands. We can't risk that. We have to get there with the plane and come back the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Listen, Archangel, you should love flying. All right, so
So-
get in the plane.
I do, just not in the plane. I like me.
Yeah. So
Just put your wings out. We'll blow air on you.
Marvel Girl is like, what about the humans that are on board? Like, we're gonna break Mother Mold and probably destroy the facility, but what about the humans on there? And Cyclops is like, mission is stop it. All costs. We're gonna try not to hurt anybody and kill anybody.
Wolverine's like, okay, shh.
Like, so they launch from their Krakoan moon base, and and head through the special thing that they discovered when they're making Interstellar, and the black hole.
Yeah.
But so then they explain, like the Sentinel to Nimrod progression. This is the ranking system.
Right.
Starts with Sentinel, Master Mold, Mother Mold, Omega Sentinel, then Nimrod. So without Mother Mold, we don't have everything else.
Right.
So we gotta stop that. And there's a little timeline.
What is weird is that we do have an Omega Sentinel, but I think in
Yeah.
order to like make it an actual threat, we
Right.
need the Mother Mold to come online.
Yeah, the Omega Sentinel that Karima is not the same type of, shouldn't be the same type of Omega Sentinel that we have in the future.
Right.
Look,
in
you
the
just
future.
call me Omega Sentinel. It doesn't mean I am an Omega Sentinel.
Right.
That was your fallacy.
That was her name, and also she was that.
Right, but like the one in the future clearly looks different and is way OP.
But it's
and-
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna take a hard break on this and establish that there's like a thing called Project Achilles, which is Hickman's version of the Vault and stuff. This is what humans
Don't
do.
name it Achilles.
Yeah, I know. Basically the humans invented like a special like Supermax. And it's like a court that's like how we deal with super crime. And so they're having a hearing on Victor Creed, aka Sabretooth, and so they're all gonna be like, okay, so we're about to put you away for the rest of your natural life. And then Emma Frost shows up, like Legally Blonde with the Cuckoos, and she's like, I object. And they're all like, excuse me, but like, no, you don't just get to be hot and have a big cool entrance and leave.
They're
You're
like,
not a lawyer.
I
Right.
was gonna say the prosecutor's like, objection, sir. No, she is objectively hot.
Yeah, objecting. But she's like, yeah, no, so here's the deal. We just brokered a deal with your State Department that Krakoa is a nation, and also you guys want your like special life pills and stuff. So like, yeah, we're gonna have an extradition thing, and we're gonna take him. And they're like, no. And she's like, pretend like you won, and then they leave and they take Sabretooth. And she says, it's a brave new world, darlings. Better get used to it. And then they leave. Also, Hickman drops a few of the letters and what they mean.
He drops all of them. It's the alphabet. It's the Krakoan alphabet.
Yeah, here's the alphabet.
Alphabet. Okay.
Throughout the whole series, he's been dropping, like, at the end of each issue, like, little, like, teases about what the next issue is going to say and be about.
That's cool.
I tried doing it, and I got bored. So,
But also, like, people were trying to figure it out as they were going.
Right,
Yeah.
Because honestly, this book, like, or these books as they were coming out, like, people were pouring over them because, like, there were hidden messages in not only the letters themselves, but in the codes on the side. Like,
Right.
there were things in there that people were, like, pulling out, like, oh my god, wait, what does this mean?
yeah, it's true. So, over on Project Orcus with the Mother Mold, they're the Omega Sentinel and Dr. Gregor are chatting about, like, what they're doing, and, Dr. Gregor's talking about how we don't want to turn her on too prematurely. Dr. Gregor refers to the Holler Faust line and how you don't want to cross the Holler Faust line.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that? It's a made-up thing. The Heller Faust line, I think, indicates because like Heller wrote Catch-22 and Faust does a deal with the devil, so it's like if it becomes like a feedback loop, it'll go. Basically, the whole point is if we turn it on before it's ready, the Mother Mold's like fake sentience will go insane and it'll kill all of us.
Right.
Like it'll be like, because it's like the Heller Catch-22 is like, well, I must destroy mutants, and in order to do that, I must destroy humans, and blah, 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 and so it
Right.
destroys everything. So we want to make it so it's just right.
Right.
And then they're like,
Like
oh,
Goldilocks.
So it's still
Yeah.
like subservient to us, but also sentient.
yes, yeah, which is like a thing you should never do because
Right.
like if you've named it,
Yeah, you're creating a sentient slave.
yeah, nope, it's not gonna work.
It's not a good
so they're
idea.
like, mutants off the port bow. There's a Shi'ar ship headed our way. Is it friendly? Is it ever? Like,
It's the Shi'ar.
it's the
The answer
Shi'ar.
is no.
One of them was doinking Professor X. You know it's the X-Men. They're like, how could they possibly have known what we were doing? So they're like, shit. You know what? Turn it on.
Right.
We only get one shot.
Well, we do have like Orcus Sentinels that we build on Mercury, but like they won't get here in time before the X-Men arrive. So turn it on.
That's a lot of cool Sentinel designs.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Except
for
for
that
this one
one.
who's a drill.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
I'm just a drill head.
Got one move.
I'm glad we both pointed that
Does
out.
anything need drilling? No?
No? Well, then I'll sit this one out. When you call me and I'll be ready to go. Anyway, so Nightcrawler...
I'll pop in anytime the turtles need an enemy to arrive.
So Nightcrawler teleports onto the ship and he's like, hey, what's up? Oh, Karima, you bitch. I thought you were not an Omega Sentinel anymore. Oh, well, I guess Hickman needed you for this story. And she's like, yeah, meh. And so he's getting recon. Nightcrawler's
He's bamfing around.
He'd be bamfing and scatting.
Dear God.
And so the X-Men make port, and they're like ready to go, and they're drilling through the thing. And Dr. Gregor's like boyfriend or whatever.
It's her husband.
Husband.
It's not her boyfriend, it's her husband.
Her husband. He's like, he's underneath where they're
He's
drilling.
the chief of security.
Yeah, and he's like, ah, shit. We didn't expect them to get here this fast or drill through this quickly.
Or know where we were.
Or know where we were. So I got bad. So he's calling Dr. Gregor his wife, and he's like, I got bad news, hun.
I'm not making it home for
I'm
dinner.
not making it home. And he like
No.
retrofits his super future gun to be a bomb. And she's like, don't do it. And he's like, earlier he makes a reference to how he's like, thank God we don't have kids because like this world sucks. And he's like, I do kind of wish we did. Kaboom! And blows up the Blackbird. And you're
Wow.
like, oh shit! But only Nightcrawler was like, but he bamfed back on. What's going on? You're like, well, what thrilling escape did they commit? Well, don't worry about that. Let's cut back to Krakoa.
What do you mean, don't worry about that?
We'll get to that in a second.
Don't worry about that.
Professor X has set up this like complicated system of awesome visuals for him to be able to communicate with the team over near the sun, and it is. There's a pit of water, and Storm uses it, and in conjunction with the Stepford Cuckoo, they can create a three-dimensional water phone.
It's not only that, because it's her,
Like-
Sage, and Beast, because
Yes.
Sage and Beast are part of the Krakoan security system.
Right.
So there are a lot of people involved.
Right.
Yeah, and one thing missing would screw it all up, but we get to see this really dope visual of Marvel Girl's face created in water, and it's really neat. And I think this is Pepe Larraz, and it's really super cool.
They couldn't just communicate telepathically?
No, but then you don't get the water phone. So they're like, how
Okay.
is it, Marvel Girl? She's like, it's bad. It's real bad. Wolverine's trying to put his arm back on. Nightcrawler is bleeding internally, and he's totally going to die. Archangel's out. And arguably, we didn't need a flying guy on a small space station anyway. But that being said, we lost a pair of hands. And so Cyclops is like, it's cool. Let me just close Archangel's eyes while I tell Nightcrawler to go bam to his doom. Nightcrawler, can you get us in there? He's like, oh, I'm good, man. I'm real good. You got it. You got it, Chief. So he teleports everybody to their key stations because, of course, like the Mother Mold is connected via like via an X. Because of course it is.
Yeah.
But like via 4 terminal points that if like, you know, so that if Mother Mold turns out to be crazy, they just disconnect it and she drops into the sun. But,
I also love when they bamf in
Yeah.
that like they're already running.
oh yeah, they're like, like start running. So Gregor is like beside herself because her husband's dead, and Omega Sentinel is like, get up, there's no one in charge. And if you want your bright future of humanity to exist, you better stop the X-Men. And so she gets into gear, and everyone's like setting up. And it turns out, oh crap, they've already disconnected 2 of the freaking 4 clamps. So we got to stop.
Because
them.
like one of them was like protected by 2 scientists, and the other one it didn't matter because Wolverine went and got it.
I love it
So-
because you also see like the visual, like Wolverine, there's like 18 dead dudes, and with Nightcrawler, there's 2 tied up guys. But now like there of course there is like a piece, the Blackbird, that still makes it because it's Shi'ar tech, and like so, and that's where Marvel Girl and Monet are, and they're like communicating with Professor, and they're drilling through, they're coming in, and so Monet kicks Jean into an escape pod, and she's like, I'll hold them off, and she's like, no, you gotta come, and she's like, good luck. bam, and just shoots her off into space. Then she turns into a super duper cool red sharp monster and starts slaughtering people. And Cyclops is concussive blasting people, and he's trying to communicate. And they're all communicating through Jean Grey's mental powers, and he's talking to Mystique. He's like, Mystique, you almost there? She's like, shut up, I'm almost there. So Mystique's standing there, and she's ready to go. She's like, it's right there, I'm walking towards it. And then she turns around because she hears Gregor, and she goes, hey, I got some bad news. And she pushes a button, and the floor just drops out from under her and sucks Mystique out into space. Mystique's dead, that's the end of Mystique. And so they're like, shit. We are screwed.
Well, 'cause, like,
I love this image, by the way, of
yeah.
Marvel Girl, and then we see it recreated through what, like just.
Yeah, so like they're watching every agonizing moment that Jean is having.
Oh yeah,
Right,
because Jean
right.
is experiencing all their deaths because she's connected to them, and
Right.
Professor X, who's communicating through her, is also experiencing all their deaths.
And so are all, honestly, everybody else, because they're all communicating through the Stepford Cuckoos.
yeah, that's true. So they're all like,
So like
oh, we're all
everybody's feeling,
dying.
yeah,
It's a tense moment.
right.
So
And like Gregor and Karima know
Yeah.
that if they protect this last node,
yes.
Right.
you're good.
They'll
Right.
get the thing. So the thing is like booting up.
Yeah, it's booting up. It's like
Okay.
it's just really big, so it takes slower.
Is there a
And-
meter that shows us how
No,
close it is to boot?
no, it's
Okay.
more like it's saying things.
Uh,
I'm turning on. You got to play the sound effect when Windows opens up. Yeah, so they're like, so she goes, it's coming online, half our guys are dead, I don't know what to do.
We have one more left.
Yeah, and Professor X goes, there's one more left, do what you gotta.
Right.
And so she goes, did you get that, Scott? He's like, yeah, I got it. And so Scott's on one end of the node,
It's like a donut.
it's a donut. And
Yeah.
so he's on one end, Wolverine and Nightcrawler on the other end, and they can see each other through the window, and he's like, I can't get to it. And
Why is it Nightcrawler bamf to it?
well, because it's out in freaking space. It's in open air.
So like they're enclosed in this donut ring, and then in the center of it, in the vast reaches of space, is the Sentinel head
Yeah.
with the nodes attached to it.
Right, but Nightcrawler was just there. They control the nodes from in the ring.
Yeah.
right?
But
So why doesn't
Nightcrawler's-
he bamf into the other
because
node?
they,
Also dying.
I think that they know that Karima, there's something waiting for them there. Obviously,
yeah, there's a
Mystique
ton
died.
of forces
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
on
And
the
maybe
left
they
end.
left the
Mystique
door
died.
open.
They
Right,
know what happened.
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Nightcrawler says, Scott, we can get there. So then Wolverine and Nightcrawler have this moment because they're friends. Wolverine once gave Nightcrawler a picture of himself for Christmas, so you can tell they're really good friends. And
Who wouldn't want that?
exactly. But he says that Nightcrawler is of course religious and
Does he tell him to be like, don't worry, God's on our side, Nightcrawler?
no, he says, I gotta ask, do you think there's something waiting for us on the other side? And he says, are you worried about your soul? And he goes, I just want to know what someone like me should expect. And he says, when you wake up from the earthly slumber, my friend, look for me, and I will be there waiting for you, radiant and with open arms. And the two of them bamf out into space, where Nightcrawler is vaporized by the sun,
Immediately.
and Wolverine is barely hanging on as his healing factor is kicking into overdrive as he just hacks away at the node and keeps self-repairing as he's like just swiping at the node. But the Mother Mold starts waking up and he goes, we judge and find you both wanting. Like, it immediately goes crazy.
That's
and
not good.
It's immediately bad.
You
and
don't want
Wolverine is,
your sentient slave robot to be saying that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
do you hear us, Olympus? We have stolen your fire, and with it we will burn you all. And that's what it says as it falls into the sun. And Wolverine, of course, follows in suit.
Right.
And Cyclops says, that's the bravest man I ever knew. And then Jean's like, I'm floating in the middle of space, Scott. Are you the only one left? And Scott's like, yeah, I'm coming to you. What I'll do is,
He's gonna find a suit.
that's right, a suit. I'll use my blast. I'll blast myself over to you. And then boom, he gets shot in the back by Omega Sentinel. And she's like, nah, I got you. And he goes, well, we killed Mother Mold, so fuck you. You can capture me and you use me, but it won't mean anything. And Gregor goes, capture you? You killed my husband, you son of a bitch. No one's taking prisoners today.
You son of a bitch.
So she shoots him in the face, and I love how his visor explodes into Jean's mind because she feels his death.
Yeah.
And then the Sentinels from Mercury, they finally make it to Jean's pod, and they rip it apart, and they kill her too.
Which is like such a horrific scene because she's in this tiny ass pod and she's like in a ball because of everything that she just felt.
Yep.
And then like she's watching as they're like peeling it open and just screaming into space.
Yep. And Professor X just feels all their deaths, and he sees, like, Storm is, like, beside herself, and he says, they've murdered so many of us, the world has grown used to it. This is just how things are for mutants. No more. And then we get this image of, like, the word no more, and then we open it up, and it's just no more superimposed over all of the atrocities throughout Marvel history that humanity has committed against the mutants, including, of course, all the deaths of every mutant that dies, and then it crescendos into a big old no more, where like Professor X is basically done playing games.
Right.
Like, I've lost my children. I've lost the X-Men. This is, by the way, in the timeline that we're in right now.
Right.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is,
X-Men
this
are
is
dead.
right now.
This just happened.
Yeah.
That just
That-
happened.
What?
Actually happened.
Yeah, but they dropped the head into the sun.
But they did win.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Right.
You know.
Well, we'll find out.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Well,
Well, we know exactly the cost. A Cyclops, a Wolverine, a Nightcrawler, Jean Grey.
Yeah,
It's like
some
8
pretty-
people.
An Archangel.
Even Monet.
So we go back to year 0, where we're still building up to everything, right? So we've collected Magneto at this point. So then Magneto and Charles go to this like Wizard of Ozian palace.
Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah, where they go to Bar Sinister, which is something that Hickman also created in Secret Wars.
Yes.
It occurs here now as well, where they're greeted by like a big guard who has the Sinister diamond on it and is Mr. Sinister. And they're like, hey, we're here to see Nathaniel Essex. I know we don't have an appointment, but we just thought
Being Magneto and Professor X.
Maybe you could
get
bump
him.
us up.
That's on the top of the list.
Right, and so then like this Sinister takes his helmet off and is like, which one? There are so many of us.
Because he's like a geneticist and he clones people.
But he really only
Right.
clones himself right now.
Yeah.
Because he's also like a narcissist.
And
So-
like, what's better than me?
Just lots of me. Eventually, like, they prove that they should go inside after that Sinister makes fun of Magneto's cape. He's just like, a cape? Really? Really? A
gauche.
cape? Which is funny because any of us who remember Mr. Sinister from, like, the 90s, he
Had
had
a
a cape,
cape.
made out of, like, ribbons and crap.
Yeah.
It,
it's
like,
a,
wasn't.
It's like a crazy cape.
Right? And you're like, what?
Schrodinger's cape.
Yeah. So then, like, Magneto attacks the guy, and, like, Professor X is like, Eric, we need this man. He's like, no, we don't. This man needs to make a decision on whether or not he's letting us in. That's what he needs to do. So then he brings them in, and he's just like, to the Court of Sinister. He's just like, Magneto and Professor Charles Xavier, here to see you. There's a Sinister sitting on the throne, surrounded by all these other Mr. Sinisters. It's as ridiculous as you imagine it to be.
Yeah.
And, like...
Is one Sinister feeding him grapes?
No, the Sinister sitting on the throne is like, hang on, stop. Before you say anything, that cape is fabulous. I love that cape. Why don't I have one? And there's a Sinister next to him. There's a wormy-looking Sinister with like this like mustache. And he's just like, I always thought you should have a cape. I really did. I thought you would look fabulous with that. And he's like, why didn't you say something? Well, it slipped my mind. And then he's like, kill this one. And then a bunch of guys with swords show up and like stab him to death. So this is the world we're living in right now.
Court of Madness.
Yep.
That's why I don't like Mr. Sinister.
This is why Charles and Magneto are just like, I didn't want to come here.
Bring this whole place down.
Oh, yeah, right? So then,
So,
like,
I'm
Charles
sorry,
is...
which time is this?
This is
is
X-Zero.
X-Zero.
This is X0.
This is, like, literally...
McTaggart.
This is like the next day?
Moira...
No, it's
Oh,
like...
no, this is before.
Yeah,
This is before.
this is
Okay.
Moira told Charles, then Charles and she went and got Magneto, and now
Okay.
Magneto and Charles are getting
They're
Sinister.
going right to Sinister.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, like,
Where is this happening?
Bar Sinister.
It's like an island that Sinister is... that Sinister
Oh,
has.
it looks like it's not on Earth.
No, but it is.
Okay. It's in the ocean or
Yeah.
something. All right.
So, Xavier's like, listen, we could use your help because I know that you are working, your endeavors in genetics are kind of amazing, and we figure, we could work together. And he's like, how do you know about this? And he's like, we have our ways, okay?
Right. Because Moira told us all about
A
it.
wink.
They should have gone to Empire State University and just gotten that wormy jackal guy.
No, because then it would just nothing but like blonde
Just
chicks.
all blondes with headbands. Wolverine with a headband. Jean Grey with a headband. Everybody's getting headbands.
This is not what I had in mind.
No.
You're fired.
Yeah, this is...
You asked me for clones.
Yeah, what else would I do with them?
all he would clone was magic.
Yeah. Right.
And it was
There's
headbands.
something about her I really respond to.
You're a creep. Get him... Just...
I'm not a creep, I'm just having sex with all these clones.
What else would you do with Chloe? What did you think I was going to do?
When you create someone, you have sex with them. That's just part of the course.
What else would my motivation be?
Oh my.
How do they live with it afterwards? Oh, they don't, I melt them.
Don't worry, they have an expiration date.
It's cool. They realize that Sinister is cataloging the world's DNA. And, like, Xavier's like, I like this idea, but we wish it was a little more focused. Like, maybe just all of mutants. If you could just catalog all the mutants, that would be great. And then like, we'll keep them safe for you and help you keep them secure and redundant, and it's gonna be fantastic. And Sinister's like, okay, even if I did that, why would I share something that valuable with you? And what is my interest here? Like, why would I care about the mutant gene? I have no interest in that because Sinister's not a mutant.
Right.
He's just Mr. Sinister.
Right.
Oh.
And then his head is lopped off. And there's another Sinister with a cape.
Who looks like our Mr. Sinister.
And he's just like, what's up? I'm the Sinister with a mutant gene. I'd be happy to help you guys.
Where was he before?
He was just in the background.
He was getting his cape.
Yeah, he's like, I'm in charge now.
Oh, I guess he shoots his head off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
Nice.
his whole head.
Yeah.
But like, and he also has like a fourth world breaking moment. Like, he lets us know. He's just like, I'm the Sinister with the mutant gene. You want to know which mutant gene? Come back later.
Okay.
I guess he's the Deadpool mutant gene.
No, there's theories as to who he is. So anyway, he's just like, I love this. I love everything about this plan. I have a cape. You've got a cape. Let's do this. And like, Xavier's like, cool. You're going to start your work, but you're going to forget we were ever here and that you were ever doing this. So he wipes his mind.
Their mission there was just to put that one specific Sinister
They wanted to,
on the throne.
And incept him.
But to get that idea in there.
Yeah.
And then we see the gossip from Bar Sinister, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of theories that are running rampant with this information. And honestly, much of it could just be a load of crap because it's Sinister who's coming up with this stuff.
Right.
Some of the important ones are the fact that it's possible that the mutant gene that Sinister has is the Thunderbird's gene, or Thunderbird's gene, who's like a mutant who's really never come back before.
Yeah.
The fact that like on Krakoa, like folk are banging, and like it's possible that Jean, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Emma Frost are in some sort of like key party.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is mention of brothers talking maybe about Scott Summers and Havoc.
Or Vulcan.
Yeah, and Vulcan, because
Yeah.
they mentioned the three of them. And then there's like, what if I told you there were more?
Like, oh my God.
Right?
We don't need more Summers.
Not another Summers brother.
Another really important one is
Damn it, Corsair!
They talk,
Keep it in your pants!
they talk about the fittest of all mutants, who is Apocalypse, and that like, hey, if he ever had the opportunity to get his original 4 horsemen back, he would move like heaven and earth to do it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is that like, there's the brainwashed mutant Sinister isn't actually brainwashed. And like, he knows the long game that's going on.
Oh.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So then we cut to X1, but it's months ago. It's months ago, motherfucker.
Okay.
Because like X1 has kind of been existing leading up to like
Where we are.
were with
Right.
Mother Mold, but now we're going back.
Right.
Let's go back.
More back.
Because now we're going back also to a point now that is after X0 where Xavier was in a wheelchair, and now Xavier's walking again.
Yeah.
Before he puts on the helmet.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the X helmet on.
Before the helmet.
Right, which is still
But after the Phantom
he doesn't
X
have
body
the
thing.
he doesn't have the helmet here
Right.
either.
He hasn't got
That was
it yet.
before.
This is
that was when he
X0.
was-
That was way
This is
before. This is
X1.
You
after
can tell
that,
the
yeah.
eras, by the way, because of his wheelchair. Like
Right.
he's where he has the '90s hover chair in that
Yes.
scene.
Yeah.
So we know that took place in the '90s.
Right.
And Magneto's in his red costume.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Krakoa, and like Professor X brings Cypher here, and he's just like, check it out, isn't this cool? And like Cypher's like, man, if I knew we were coming to like this like cool like tropical island, I would have like packed a bathing suit. And he's just like, honey, you're here to work. He's
I can work in a bathing suit.
I don't bring
not a
Cypher
weekend
by himself
excursion.
places.
yeah.
There's a serious investigation of the stability of this island.
Right. Well, so like Xavier says, welcome to Krakoa, and he's just like, yeah, you brought me to an island that killed a whole bunch of mutants, and like
Right.
they're like, yeah, but it's better now.
It's all better now. It came back from space or not or
It's
whatever.
cool.
Shut up.
I wouldn't worry about it. So Cypher
Oh yeah, when things come back from space, they're much better.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't worry about it. So Cypher starts like touching the plant life, and like you see like his like influence on it, and he's trying to communicate with the island, which he knows is a sentient being. And then like they run into like the face of Krakoa, and he's like, "Say hello, Douglas." So you go talk to him.
Sup?
So he starts trying to communicate with him, and he's like, "All right, I'm kind of getting some stuff here, Professor X. I know you can communicate with him telepathically to some degree. Can you ask him how he feels, so I can get a read on that?"
Okay.
And
I
he's
need
just
to
like,
How do you
establish a
feel?
baseline.
yeah, and he's just like, okay, Like, what's the level that you're getting? Is it like a nuanced level? Like, or is it more like, Xavier friend, Island friend, like, Krakoa sad.
Fire bag.
Right, is
Yeah.
he like a toddler or like
Yeah.
a 12-year-old? Like, what are we talking
Right.
about
Because,
here?
like, Xavier says the Krakoa says he's sad. And, like,
What kind of sad?
yeah, and so, like, Xavier's like, wait, you're saying he's not sad? He's like, no, he is, but, like, there's more complexity to it, and I'm just trying to get there. And so, like,
It's more
from
like
this,
clinical depression. It's not really...
well, he's trying to, like, understand the language, and so then he's like, all right, he touches it, and he's like, got it. And then we get the history of Krakoa, and it starts
Made
off,
up new history, by the way.
Right.
it starts off with an island called Okara, which was one land.
There was a line on Earth called
Yes,
Okara.
called
Okay.
Okara, and Okara was split in twain by the Twilight Sword of their enemy, and from this was formed Araco and Krakoa,
Two separate islands
and
from one island.
from this chasm poured forth these enemies into the world, these like hell beastie looking enemies,
These very distinct looking, almost Black Order-esque characters.
right? And if not for the man, the first mutant, the warrior god, if you will, who stood against them,
The first mutant?
Yeah, but it can't be the first mutant because Namor's the first mutant, but we're going to probably
It's
retcon
fine.
that. It's a part, yeah.
he's real old. The world would have fallen, and so he and his horsemen fought against these beings and drove them back into the chasm. But in doing so, they had to push Araco, the other island, away and into the chasm. And in order to keep it sealed and safe, he sent his 4 horsemen with it, and they sealed it behind them,
Ah, okay.
never to be opened again. And like Cypher's like, or something like that. I don't know.
that's how
I
it
probably
goes.
missed a couple things in there.
That was like the gist of it.
Like,
That was very specific.
yeah, that was
was very
strangely
specific.
specific.
You like named a sword and stuff.
Yeah. Also, it likes cats.
Meow.
You're either making all of this up or you're doing a real good job.
Yeah. So like later on, like Cypher's like, it's really nice here. It's really beautiful. Like it's
Yeah.
completely turned like his like impression of like being on Krakoa and like what
Right.
Krakoa
First,
really
he's like
means.
firing up the engines, like good.
Yeah, that sounds great because you're gonna be here for a while. He's like, I wanted to know like if you wouldn't mind spending time here, and he's just like, the professor has plans, and he's just like, I'm just gonna show you, and he shows him what his plans are, and he's like, well, that's ambitious. Well, that's a thing and a half.
Okay.
Cool. So like, you want me to be able to interface with the ecosystem? It'll take me months, maybe a year to do that. And he's like, all right. And he tosses him a duffel bag, and he's like, bye. See you later, Cypher.
Here's some cup of noodles.
Just tell Krakoa to manifest food when you need it.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
cool,
guess.
which it does.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to year 1000 because we're done with X2, the year 100. We're not going
Right.
to go back there again. We ended that.
We saw
Yeah,
where it
we
ended.
already got the crystal.
Into more
Apocalypse is
she's
destroyed,
dead,
it's over.
but
So
that's over.
this is where we see the Phalanx look a little more kind of like Warlock. We're getting those yellow,
more yellow
colors
tones,
in there.
yeah.
So like, remember we cut back, they're like, what do you want? We want Ascension. Okay, let's pick up from that conversation. Like, we're ready. Like, I'm the elder of this race, and we're ready for conversion. We hope for Ascension, and like, hopefully you'll like what you see. And they're like, we don't care about hope. What do you got? Show me what you got.
Yeah.
And it's like, we really, like, here's the thing. Like, we can't tolerate knowing that you are what is the next step and that we can't have it. So we want it, but, like, they're organic. And, like, that is not what the Phalanx is all about. So instead, she gives him this, like, orb that looks like Wheatley from Portal 2.
Yep.
And, like, it absorbs it, and they're all kind of standing there. And, like, the Elder's like, well, am I in there somewhere? Because it was a copy of the Elder's consciousness.
Okay.
And like the Phalanx responds in kind, saying like, "Are we in there anywhere?" And then like repeats like this like line that is like code for like, "Oh, it worked. I'm in there. Cool." And then the Phalanx start like freaking out, and they turn into like the orb thing again, and that like basically the post-humanity is now like waiting for the response if they will take them as part of Ascension. Like, await our answer. We'll see what happens. And like what we're gonna see here is that like the librarian's like, what just happened there?
Yeah.
What is going on? And the fact is that like, again, the Phalanx doesn't care about the organic nature of it, but we want to go to Ascension. So the plan is we'll just copy all of our brains, and then they'll like rip our world apart, but our consciousness will be saved, and we'll go and become part of the Phalanx. And isn't that cool? We'll like live on forever.
Because it's a copy. And as Ethan
Right.
believes, if you teleport yourself someplace and you kill the original host, it doesn't matter because like it's a you that goes on.
Yeah. And like it's funny because like the little like Nimrod Nimbus guy is like is like foreboding, isn't it, librarian? That they want us and not you?
Yeah.
Because you're made out of like this.
Right.
Yeah.
right?
So,
Well, Nimbus doesn't really work with the color scheme.
what is the librarian? Is it a human?
It's what the humans.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Because there's
Okay.
like there's a big old explanation.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to figure out like what future is this? Because there's a Nimrod, but they killed the mother mold so that there wouldn't be a Nimrod.
Yeah, but that was later. That's like
Oh,
10.
this is Life 9 future we're still looking at?
Well, we were looking. Well, the Nimrod
get
we
there.
saw before was in Life 9.
Yeah.
This is still the future.
Yeah.
This is...
It's the future.
Yeah, it's the future.
Future.
So then we unveil the 5, and this is like the thing that I'm like, no. It turns out, you remember have we ever mentioned a character called Gold Balls who can like produce an infinite number of golden balls?
No.
Paco Medina, you can make gold balls.
Okay.
Well, anyway,
Not Gobolds.
No, gold balls.
Gold balls.
Well,
Actual gold.
no, they're just golden.
They just look
But it
gold.
turns out, like, Hickman's like, screw that. Nobody cares about gold balls. It turns out they're eggs. And so, in conjunction with... So,
So
basically...
he's Goose?
Remember those egg
Yeah.
things from the beginning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those pods, those
Yeah.
are gold balls. And then Proteus, who is actually Moira McTaggart's son... So, like, that's kind of like he needs to exist, so she needed to make sure that happened.
Which she did.
I guess why her last name's McTaggart. But, like, he can, like, kind of warp reality so those eggs are useful instead of just big golden balls. And then you can inject the DNA that they got from Sinister of a mutant into them. And then Elixir, who is, like, you know, he can heal, can kickstart the process of cellular replication. And then... Eva Bell can like manipulate time. We saw her in one of our X-Men books that we did a while back. There's a link where she can manipulate time to advance the DNA within the balls to make them of the age they need to be when they died. And then Hope can use her powers to make it so that actually it would work. That's literally it, just like so it would work. And then Professor X can dump the consciousness of the mutants that he's been because Cerebro, it turned out that like. Yeah, Cerebro can find mutants. That's the secondary element of Cerebro. Turns out what Cerebro can really do is find and store the memories and consciousness of every mutant on the planet. And that's why he wears it all the time, so he can be a constantly like updating system. And so he just dumps the consciousness of that mutant who died into the gold ball. And then they stick them in Krakoa, and then, like in the opening of the book, they pop out, and that's where like Cyclops and Jean and Monet and everybody comes out.
But they don't come out. No, he doesn't dump their consciousness
No, he
until
doesn't.
afterwards.
He does that afterwards. That's right. Like they come out and they're just kind of like
They're these like husks.
they're these husks. Now, people are like, "Hey, what? Wolverine has an adamantium skeleton, and Cyclops' powers are only like a curse because of a head injury he had. What is that all about?" And that's where, you know, we see the image of Cyclops' like optic blast like coming out, but not really being a problem. And I like the idea that like Professor X touches him and then puts on his visor as if to like recreate, because he's new.
Right.
That Professor X recreates the traumatic brain injury or like, makes him think he has it to give him his powers. And then
Or he could just like, you know, control it.
Yeah, no, he's got to be himself.
No, he's got to be all effed up.
So I've got you. And then he dumps Cyclops into himself, and he's like, and he just lies there, and he's like, you're back. You think like every part, even though I thought I could bring you back, when you die, a part of me dies too. Now let's not do that again, shall we? And he goes, did it work? And he goes, it did. It worked. And then it turns out it worked on everybody, and everybody wakes up, and they're all back.
So everyone who died on the mission is back.
Back.
And in fact, that's why we're seeing X-Men that have died in previous issues and previous books, is because like they've been bringing back everybody. Literally every dead X-Man, every dead character in X-Men is back, with a few exceptions. But like literally every...
Spider-Man's like knocking on the gate. Hey,
Can you... I know, I think Gwen was a mutant too, and Uncle
like-
Ben.
No.
especially Uncle Ben.
No.
There's no
What was
way
his
anyone else can be
power?
that responsible.
What was his power? Responsibility.
Hopeful speeches.
Responsibility.
So anyway, the X-Men are back. They're alive.
Yay.
And so they have this big, creepy, cultish... big, beautiful, inspirational scene where all the naked New Mutants are standing there, and Storm introduces them.
Prior to that, they announced
they
the
announced the
five,
five.
and the
Look at
five
the
go through,
five.
and like all the other mutants are like touching them, like
Yeah. Because Storm is like their orator. She's like, children of Krakoa, a great miracle's occurred, and it's because of these people. Worship the five, for through them you will live forever. It's like until one of them gets like a friggin' like,
What?
staph infection and dies. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, worship the five. Why?
Because they can bring you back to life. Because without them, you won't live forever.
I'm sorry, bring us back to life, or you tell us we're gonna die?
Only if you do, yeah. But she's
Are you
like,
a mutant? Yeah.
But she goes, but yeah, so a great wrong has been righted because now they're here. I see them, do you? And they go, we see them, but do we know them? And she goes, what is your name? I'm Cyclops, Scott Summers. And how do I know it's you, my brother? Because once I thought I was strong and a leader of mutants, and then you showed me what strong was. And it's when Storm took over as the leader of the X-Men from Cyclops. And she goes, I learned it by watching you. This is my brother, and I know him, and he is Cyclops, but more than that, what is he? And they're like, mutant! What is your name? Marvel Girl, Jean Grey. And how do I know it is you? And she does this for everybody.
I like her answer, though.
How do I know it's you? Oh, I'm the only me that ever was, Aurora. And I'm like, that doesn't say anything. What are you freaking talking about? You've been used 6 or 7 times.
She's like,
Yeah, but I'm the real
sassy.
one that
Yeah,
was
and she goes, that's
always
my
me."
sister. I know her, but more than Jean Grey. What is she? Mutant. And they're all like, woo. And he's like, and now get it on. And like they all like, so the naked mutants like go into the center and they all like, oh, and they touch them, and Magneto and Professor X like clap each other on the back and go like, we are friggin' dope.
Why did you do all this? What is this? Why is it creepy and weird? Why did you just bring them back?
It's only creepy and weird because it's new. And because you don't get it. You're not a mutant, you don't get it. It's like, this is just new for everybody. I was literally a guy like a week ago with a mutant power, but now I'm a cult leader? Like, what are you talking about? Like, no. Listen, you want to stay on this tree planet, you better shut up.
It's all part
That's
of
how
the
it
tree
works.
thing,
Yeah, we
and
wanna
it's
be on
all
this
part of
island.
Moira's plan.
Yeah.
We got to do it.
I feel like all this crap is part of their plan, and that she needs them. And she's like, you want to make it a creepy cult thing? Like,
Like,
we
look,
established-
you want it to
Can
succeed?
talk
It's
about
got to
No
be a
Place?
creepy
Can I
cult
mention No
thing.
Place?
Let's just keep moving.
All right,
Yeah.
so anyway, Magneto and Professor X are like, tomorrow they vote. How's it going to go? You think it's going to go well? Yeah, I think it's going to go well. Emma's going with them. So the next day, they go to the UN. Hey, they did it. Yay, they voted. And Krakoa's a nation state now. And we're going to live, and we have, like, trading rights and all kinds of shit.
Okay.
We have a seat
yeah.
in the UN. We can vote and crap.
Right.
And, like, a couple people said that they weren't going to do it. But Emma kind of convinced them, like, either to abstain.
Uh-huh.
You know, or whatever. And Professor X is there, and he's like, Emma, I know you helped out with that. She's like, oh, did I? What are you talking about? And he's like, I know that it also leaves an indelible mark on your soul. So please, like, know that I appreciate your sacrifice. She goes, you can buy me something pretty. And he's like, oh, I've got something even prettier planned for you. And you're like, what?
Yeah, like, that was creepy.
I call it
say
an
that.
irony.
Yeah, he doesn't say that really.
No.
But, like, it's heavily implied that it's, like, weird and gross. So then, 2
He's
days...
just like, you want Cyclops, right? Wink.
So then 2 days later...
I can make that happen.
Then 2 days later, Wolverine is like, Chuck, this is the worst idea you've ever had. Chuck's like, actually, it's the best. So then they open the doors, and every X-Man bad guy that has ever been a mutant walks through the door. We're not talking about just like Mr. Sinister and crap. We're talking about crappy characters like Exodus.
And Gorgon.
And Gorgon.
And I guess, what's her face? The leader of the
Yeah, Calypso.
Morlocks? Yeah.
Like, they're all coming through. Oh, an M-Plate. Remember
Oh,
M-Plate from
yeah.
Generation
no.
X?
I do.
Yeah, he's second in line behind...
I must feed off of your deliciousness.
How does he get them on board?
He called them and told them, like, this is it. It's my way or the highway. And they're like, sounds good. Then Apocalypse walks
Hey,
to the door.
it doesn't matter. You're mutants.
Yeah, you're mutants. You're all part of it.
Right.
So Apocalypse walks to the door and he goes, Krakoa. It's been far too long. And the island, like, responds. Like, birds fly through. And, like, the sky opens up. And Wolverine's like, you're getting kind of comfortable here. And he's like, I should be comfortable. This is my home. I have a retconned past with Krakoa now. And I'm like the father of Krakoa. Not really, but like I lived here and shit.
Right.
Well, I spilled enough seed here.
Yeah, and so Magneto's like, Krakoa's sacred and we love it here and this is our place and like, yeah, is that gonna be a problem? And he's like, why would it be a problem? This is all I've ever wanted for you people. Even though I fought you countless times and tried to kill you and stuff,
Right.
like now, all I wanted is for one people, one united front. Like, yes, I'm so on board. And they're like, yeah. Well, we need to hear it. Like, we need you to say it. We need you to not just like say that you're in charge. Like, kneel. And he goes, one people from this day forward. And Professor X is like, let it be known, Krakoa is for all mutants. Welcome home. And Professor X and Apocalypse shake hands.
Wow.
And like clearly indicate that Apocalypse has plans with Krakoa and that he has a connection to it and everything.
Right.
So the next issue of Powers opens up in X0 with Xavier going to Forge and being like, basically, I want Cerebro to be able to copy all of mutantdom and be able to store it. Beast says it's not possible, but you're better than Beast, right? And he's like, I am.
I can be.
I can. I mean, like, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff we got to overcome, and, like, if you're willing to do it, we can do it, Chuck. And Chuck's like, Yeah.
I want the contract.
Yeah.
Right.
I said I wanted to do it.
Yeah, and the idea is that, like, not only does he want this, but he wants 5 redundancies.
5?
Also, look at his face throughout this entire sequence and tell me that Professor X doesn't look totally normal and cool. But, yeah.
But, like, essentially...
He's not evil.
I love that he was like, 5, and Forge is like, yeah, all right, why not?
Okay, fine.
Okay,
fine.
fine.
Yeah, it's like, da-ha! Da-da-da! And Forrest's like...
Yeah, I've heard 1 or 2 redundancies before. Sure, whatever.
Yeah, all right, 3 more. Fine.
So there's a question, of course, storage. How could you possibly store all of this information? There's a lot, and there is a cloaked antimatter engine like above the Earth, and there's Shi'ar logic diamonds on it. And that'll be able to hold it until they can figure out something else for it. Later on, they'll use Krakoa to store everything. And the idea is that, like, Professor X will each week, like, get, like, the latest version of some things. And then, like, once a year, will go away for, like, 3 days and, like, be undisturbed while he literally does a hard backup on every mutant.
Oh.
And then he'll move on from there.
Yep.
And the 5 locations for the redundancies are the House of X, Island M, Summer House, The Point, and Moira's No Place.
it's the Krakoan tumor, the place he can't see.
Right.
Yeah. So then we're going to also cut really quickly because it's like, wait, Emma Frost has been in here. When did she get on board?
Yeah, why
Well,
would she do that?
Yeah, in X1, like in year 10 of it, I guess, freaking Emma Frost goes to the Louvre and she wants to look at, like, I think it's the Winged Victory, I think it's Nike, and like she makes everybody leave, and then like Professor X is like shows up, he's like, hey, what's up? Magneto's there, and she's just like, yeah, I knew you guys were there because you're like literally the most unsubtle people ever.
One of you's wearing a friggin' costume.
And the other one has a big stupid helmet on.
Also,
What's
you
up?
both do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, she's just like, I know you've been kind of busy lately, Charles, like doing your whole, like, you know, corporation thing. And he's just like wanting to sell drugs and stuff like that. And basically he's like, I want the Hellfire Club to be my distributor. Because like you have the access to all the markets, I don't think they're going to give it to me. And basically he has all this shell corporation going on.
Right.
That's where we find out Professor X is a trillionaire.
Right.
Yeah. And so basically he's like, not only do we want that, but we're also going to establish the mutant state of Krakoa. And she's like, cool, another island, huh? That usually works out well for all
Yeah,
y'all.
remember Genosha,
Right.
you jackass?
Yeah. And so she kind of freaks out at them.
Yeah.
And she's like, holy crap, you guys are for real about this.
Yeah.
And so they take her to Krakoa. And we see her there, and like she's in like this crazy costume, and she's like, wow, this is really nice. It's really beautiful here. Like, I'm in. And we see like this like tower.
Yeah, it's the
from
tower.
the future.
It's the future tower.
The tower is like, you see it throughout, like
Yeah,
this imagery.
image.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you need? And he's just like, I'm gonna need you to like literally use your company to get everything in there. And like she's like, oh cool, you want like, because like it's not only a mutantdom company, but like people actually, like humans also trade with me right on.
Yeah.
And like Magneto's like, yes, you'll have like an exclusive contract for like, we're thinking like 20 years. And she looks at him, he's like, as I was saying 50 years. She's like, right on. And that like she'll also get a seat on the first government of Krakoa. And she's like, actually you get 2 seats. And she's like, what do I need a second seat for? And he's like, you need to get Sebastian Shaw back into the Hellfire. And she's like, I just got rid of him. I'm not bringing him back. And
Like, well, you gotta.
like, we want him to basically, the people who don't agree with us, we need him to run the black market of getting the drugs in there anyway, so that they're beholden to us no matter what. And she's
Just send
like,
a fruit basket.
she's like, fine, I'm in, but I want 3 seats.
You didn't even want 2 a second ago.
We see Professor X put his call out to everybody, being like, hey, it's cool, like, I'm building this place, and, like, everybody's invited. When you get here, all your sins are forgiven, man.
Right.
You're just a mutant. You're, like, reborn when you get to Krakoa.
Yeah, even if you killed like a child Gorgon, you can totally live here.
It's totally fine. So then we go to Atlantis, and the only reason I want to really call this one out is because this is awesome. So, like, Professor X shows up in, like, his hologram mental, like, version. There's, like, sharks everywhere. We see, like, you know, Namor sitting on his, like, giant Cthulhu throne.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, he specifically is talking to Namor. He's like, hey, Namor, come on, you should come join us. Like, you're real cool. And he's just like, Namor's like, seriously? Like, oh, great, you finally just realized that you're, like, better than everybody else. Let me ask you something. Do I strike you as someone who doesn't know that he's better than everybody else? I don't believe you really feel this way. So go away, little man, and come back when you really mean it. I'm like, this is so ends the like appearance of Namor
Yeah.
in this book.
Namor never lies, so I like that indication because it's like, does Professor X not believe in Moira's message? But like, does he have a fucking plan?
So
Well, he never lies, but that also means, like, I believe that you don't believe it.
Right,
Yeah, it doesn't
yeah.
mean he knows.
Namor doesn't appear in any more X-Men books after this.
okay.
I feel like it's
They just
there
wanted
for
to,
a
like,
reason.
Yeah. So
Well,
all we need to know is 1,000 years in the future, the Phalanx answer is, yeah, we're in. We'll take you. And then like a Phalanx version of the Elder shows up and is all creepy about it. And they're like, we agree to these terms, and then destroys them because they're organic. And we
Right.
learn about the fact that it's just like, no, like this was the way it was always gonna be. That like humanity kind of did this to themselves. Like you guys wanted to become more evolved, and like you went this route, and now machines are really the next evolution, and so you'll have to leave your organic bodies behind,
Right. Okay.
and like the real you will be gone. And isn't that cool? And that like
Sweet.
a Dominion is basically the top of everything.
Right.
Right? And the only primal threats to a Dominion are World Eaters, Galactus, and a singular universal manifestation of life, the Phoenix.
I was wondering where the Phoenix was
Yeah.
going to get.
So like the only
Ranked in
thing
here.
that like fake God fears are these few things that could
Galactus
eat
and
it.
the Phoenix.
Right.
So there you go.
Which is great. So Professor X and Magneto are, it's a month ago, they're in No Place with Moira, and they're like, all right, so we're in on this? We're going to do this? Really? We're all set? And they're like, yeah. So then Professor X puts on the Cerebro helmet, and he calls all of humanity, and he says, like, all I ever wanted for you was what was best. Like, all I wanted to do was give you what you deserved and what you wanted. And, like, I just wanted a peaceful coexistence of mutants and humans, and you couldn't have it.
Right. You wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it. So, and I have access to these drugs that could revolutionize your lives and make you better and fix all these ailments. And I would have just given it to you, like a year ago. I would have given it to you, but you won't stop. So now you have to earn it, and you got to pay for it with money and with like allowances. You're gonna have to let me have my country, and you're gonna have to give citizenship to that country to every mutant. Like every mutant anywhere from now on, that's your home. Like,
if you want it.
yeah, you went to sleep last night. You closed your eyes believing this world would be yours forever. That was a dream, and like my dream, it was a lie. So here's the new truth. While you were sleeping, the world changed. And then we cut to the Quiet Council now, where it's like everyone's here. The government of Krakoa is convening.
Yeah.
We see everybody, and they're just like, all right, here we are. What's our first thing? You know what? Judgment. Let's do that first. So they drop Sabretooth, and he's like, I am going to kill all of you. Screw you guys. And they're like, okay, and they just ignore him.
Yeah, because you would.
Because
it's Sabretooth.
Well, because externals are on this council, like
Yeah.
immortal mutants, Omega level mutants, and they're just like, yeah. So they're like, what do we do? Like we got to come up with laws. We have a country now. We're gonna have laws. We got to figure it out. So what are we gonna do about Sabretooth, for example? And Sabretooth's like, well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna friggin' eviscerate you and cut your guts out. Blah blah blah.
Sure,
And Emma
yeah.
hits him with a mind whammy, and he's like, "Ugh." And then Jean hits him with a mind whammy, and he just is reduced to drooling. And they're like, nice. So they're talking about what they're gonna do.
Sweet.
And so they're coming up with their laws, and they're talking about how like Krakoa is sacred, and we have to believe in it and trust it. So like, oh, that's a law. Okay, respect the land. Sounds good.
Makes sense.
Let's make it a law. And so Mystique, who's a total B, is like talking to Kurt, her son, and he's of course like religious, and she's like, I noticed the guy who believes in God has been quiet about laws and belief and stuff. What's your great contribution to the conversation? And he's like, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. It's obvious, isn't it? We have to make more mutants. Oh, fuck a lot. Cool, yeah, that's a law. So, and also the other thing was like, since mutants can't die now because of the 5, mutant life is sacred but can be replenished. Humans don't get that. So we should make a law that is like, since humans are fragile, no mutant may kill a human.
Unless
They try to kill you too, or there was a big
Like, you
mission.
can't-
But you can't die.
no, but you can't murder them. But
Yeah.
like if like you
If
can
it's
defend
self-defense.
You
yourself.
can defend yourself.
Yeah, and if the only way to stop them is to kill them,
Then
Well,
fine.
you shouldn't defend yourself because Professor X can always just bring you back.
Right, but
so
it's taxing.
yeah, but if they know that
Yeah,
you
but,
can,
like,
they
it
can just
hurts
kill
to die.
mutants like haphazardly
Yeah.
with no regard, they're not going to stop.
Yeah, that wouldn't be
Exactly.
good either, I guess.
So those are the 3 laws of Krakoa. Make more mutants, murder no man, and respect the sacred land.
Okay, so with this thing with the 5, I'm just a little bit confused because he brought back like 5 specific mutants, but like
Well, he uses 5. Some of them didn't die.
Yeah, he uses 5 mutants to bring back the team that was in space,
Yeah.
which was not
I see.
5.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I had that
thought there were
question
5
earlier.
eggs, and I was really confused. There's
Right,
as
no,
many
it's just-
eggs as there needs to be.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gold Balls
Okay.
makes all
He's
the
just
balls
always
you need.
making
Gold
eggs.
balls as an omega
Always
level.
be making eggs.
He's an omega level gold ball maker. So anyway, they're like, "What do we do about Sabretooth? He murdered a man. Like he murdered men. He's
Right.
He's a
yeah,
bad
but you
guy."
didn't make that law yet.
And we just did now. So now
He's also a lunatic, so
now
Yeah.
that we've got laws, what are we going to do about it? And he's like, and they're like, let's. Okay, so you've been judged.
Punch him in the face.
Yeah. No, they found him guilty of his crime, and so they're sentencing him. And they're like, well, but since we can't kill each other, because that's also like, don't kill mutants. And mutants can't kill mutants. But it's like, but it's
That
not.
doesn't seem like a
it's
good-
not on the law list.
Oh.
like it's just a general.
It's just a general, like,
be
don't
cool,
do that.
bro.
Just seems like you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, great. But they're like, okay, so we can't kill him. We can't send him to the humans. So he is sentenced to like living death, where he is like, we're gonna send you into the heart of Krakoa for all time,
Bye.
Oh.
and maybe we'll call you later and like we'll give you a parole. We'll see. I'm like, yeah, it's Sabretooth. Sure, he'll be thrilled when he comes out. So they're like,
He's a really, even-headed
yeah,
person.
So they're
So
like,
he's just
"Woof."
gonna live with like vines and crap around him.
Yeah, in isolation.
Is there food there?
Krakoa will provide.
It's like the Sarlacc pit. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
So then they all leave and they're like, oh, that was crazy. And then they all celebrate like their statehood.
Yeah.
Oh, let's have a giant techno dance.
So they have their big Zion dance, Zion, and they're all like,
yeah.
Siren is
course
cool.
they are.
Siren-
And while they're dancing, they're fucking because that's one
yeah.
of the laws.
that's it, yeah. Nightcrawler said so. So like, and Siren, who can make sound, she blasts her sound into Dazzler, who can make light and stuff out of music.
shit.
And she's a pop star too, so she's like Britney Spearsing it up over Endor here.
Yeah.
And because that's just literally a shot from Endor of the fireworks going on.
Yup,
they're all-
motherfuckers.
But they're all having a wonderful time, and everyone's excited. Exodus is dancing, and you're like, Exodus, don't dance. And Wolverine has a 6-pack of beer, and he's like, hey, Cyclops, Jean Grey, we should totally bang, you and me. And he gives them some beers.
He takes 2.
He takes 2, and then he goes to Gorgon, whom he hates and would kill, and who murdered a child of one of his oldest friends, and he gives him a beer, because everything's cool, because we're the same race. And then Cyclops gives Jean a beer, and Jean gives Emma a beer, and then Emma gives Cyclops a sexy look, and you're like, oh! And then Havoc shows up, and he's like, Cyclops, look at us, yeah, we're having a great time.
Everything's
And then-
better with beer.
yeah, beers. And Apocalypse is sitting in the bushes like Rufio, just like meh. and Xavier and Magneto are acting like they came up with all this all by themselves.
God, we did a great job.
Yeah, and Magneto goes, look at what we made. And it's like nice, but you're also like, yeah, but Moira did all this, you jackass.
Yes.
And also Moira's of course not here. She's in
No,
a special secret
she's in the
tumor.
secret
so like
place.
no one even knows she's a mutant or that she's there.
All right.
This is super fucked up.
Let's get to the end of this. Here
All
we
right,
go.
yeah.
So we go back to the beginning of
Yeah,
Powers of X,
course, we
where we
have
see
to.
Charles at the fair again. We have the whole, literally everything that happened at the beginning happens again. Right?
to Moira,
Same
the
conversation.
cards.
The whole thing. You know me. What? And then we go immediately to X3, the year 1000. We go right into the preserve. The librarian's there. He gets attacked by something, and it's revealed that there are mutants in here. It's not humanity who they're preserving. It's mutants. And he's just like, go eat your food. And then he's wandering through and he starts talking to somebody. And he's just like, hey, like, oh no,
Person I'm
someone's talking to him and says something about like, they just want to be free. They don't want to be locked up in a zoo. He's like, yeah, but they don't know what freedom is. How could you know what it is if you've never experienced it or heard of it? And the voice that is revealed to be Wolverine, who's just like, because I told them about it. and I tell them about it every day and every night. And then the librarian reveals that they know how to speak English and like knows exactly who Logan is. And like he's
Tell
just
me
like,
this is not the same Logan.
It is.
and he's just like, I'm a
Can't die.
I'm a
Yeah.
librarian and dead languages fascinate me and I downloaded this and here we go. And he's like, okay, cool. Wolverine's like, just tell me what you want. Like, what's going on? He's like, I'm waiting for her. And out of the bushes, Moira shows up. And she's like, oh, you speak English? Well, then you must have heard some of the things that we've been saying. She's like, yeah, I mean, like, obviously I'm not eavesdropping as much as, like, I'm just observing all of you. That's what primary research is about, right? Like, I'm researching you guys, and, what's the turn of phrase? I wanted to see what makes you tick. And like Wolverine's like, how's that working out for you? And he's just like, conclusions haven't been drawn, but like whatever. Here's the thing: tomorrow the world will end in Ascension, and I'm kind of having an existential crisis where it's like, okay, my life will end, but I will go on as a copy of myself, my intelligence, into this singularity where I'll spend forever. But is that existence? I don't know. And like, Moira's like, tomorrow things are going to end? You're like, yep. Oh, except for you two. We're going to send you two away because we know, Moira X, if you die, this will be unmade. And we want to find out if there is God and if we can become part of it. And if we become part of it before you die, then we will like exist outside of space and time, or so we would hope, because we'll be in this like black hole or
So
whatever.
then we won't be affected by you dying.
Right. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to do that. So like maybe I should just kill you. And if I did, how would you fix this? What would you do? Convince me to let you die. Right now.
Why is she alive at all?
So what they were doing was the librarian's like, it was really lucky that you and Wolverine were the same blood type.
Oh.
So he's just been pumping his blood into Moira.
Oh.
And so she has persisted.
Okay.
His blood can heal other people if they're the same blood type.
Apparently.
In this, it
Thanks,
can.
Hickman.
Or it has something to do with Moira.
Yeah.
Because Moira's kind of a different mutant.
Right.
Right.
So,
But she did get old and died that one time.
yeah.
Before she was.
But she didn't have
But
Wolverine's
she,
blood.
yeah, well, she's able to. Yeah, so she has two powers.
Yeah.
One is that she can be reborn, and the other is that when Wolverine gives her a blood transfusion, she doesn't die.
Exactly. So Wolverine's like, I know what we'll do. We'll start a little revolution a lot sooner. And he's just like, cool. I don't know if you know this, but like our post-humanity's term is actually Homo Novissima, and we're the end of the evolutionary tract because humanity saw that literally X-Men or mutants were the next step naturally, and so they were like, nah.
Right, we're gonna go in a different direction.
And so they took evolution and changed it. And in theory, they've always been changing it. And we see something that looks kind of like when Captain America came about. It's like humanity's
been doing this forever.
Yeah,
Right.
we've been changing ourselves forever. And so like inevitably we were able to like master biology and technology and perfect genetic engineering. And so for every like one mutant that responded to nature around it, we could make 10 Supermen. And you couldn't win, and you never were going to, because humanity decided no. Because at the end of the day, you thought it was humans were the problem. You thought machines were the problem. The fact is, time was the problem. So we invented Sentinels, and it bought us years. And we invented Nimrods, and it bought us decades. You can't win because you can't beat us in the long run. You can't survive long enough. Which is why, in my opinion, the resurrection is so important, because they need to live out a certain amount of time. That's what I think Moira's plan is.
Right.
And like at the end of it, like essentially like the librarian's like, you know what? I'm realizing now I am going to just go and become part of the Phalanx, right? And then Wolverine kills him. And like earlier, like when he got attacked, he was just like, you're never gonna be fast enough. I knew like the other mutant who tried to attack me, he's like, I knew you were gonna do that before you even knew you were gonna do it.
Right.
So Wolverine's like, fast enough for you? And so then like Moira's like, oh shit. Like we didn't know. Like now we get it.
Who could have been the Phalanx?
Right? Or like the fact that the problem was time. We
Right.
never have enough time.
Right.
And so like they're like, okay, now we have to kill you, Moira. And like Wolverine's like, close your eyes. And she's like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. My eyes are open, just make it quick. And he goes, don't worry, darling, this is what I do. And he stabs her. And so ends the 6th life of Moira X. So in the 6th life, she lived out the longest she could, which is why in the 9th life, when she finally got her head out of her ass after doing all the crazy stuff in life 7, because life 6 makes her a lunatic. And she becomes a sniper, and she becomes radicalized,
Yeah.
and then she joins Apocalypse. She has to find out when Nimrod comes online, because Nimrod coming online leads to this future.
Right.
And so they had to stop it,
Yeah.
which is why also when Wolverine kills her in her 9th life, she says, it's what you do. So
Okay.
Chuck sees all of this and has a like meltdown.
Yep.
Right.
And she's like, so there you go. Like, that's it. Like, this is how it's gonna be. And like this is when Xavier realizes we lose. Like, we always lose. And she's like, yep. And he's just like, okay, like, all right, maybe I just need to be more selective with my students, or like appeal more to humanity.
I'm
like,
gonna do all the
somehow I
drugs.
failed. And she's like, and she's just smiling at him, and he's just like, what are you doing? And then she kisses him. She's just like, you know, like, you never change. I've hated you and I've loved you, but like you don't change. And he's like, oh, that's so sweet. And she's like, it's not a compliment, asshole.
But you kissed me. I thought that was code.
She's like, no.
No, you're just hot.
In order for us to like live and like make it, I have to break you. Because that's what's got to happen now.
Right.
So two of us are going to go together and it's going to be great, but I'm going to wreck you. And then we have journal entries where she talks about that and how she's a little worried about it, honestly, because as she's going through time and like occasionally he'll like check in and like want to see how her memories are and like all that crap. Like she's concerned that it'll lead to like a true like breaking of his mind, which could lead to an onslaught like moment.
Yeah.
They recruit Magneto. Inevitably, the two of that, like, they all kind of break. Apocalypse shows himself to the world, and she's like, we gotta wait on that one, but we'll bring him in inevitably. When they go to get Sinister, that is not in Moira's plan. Chuck and Magneto decide to go on their own and do that, and she's like, it's a bad idea. He always fucks up. And so then inevitably, she realizes that she has too much presence in the world, and so they fake her death using the first version of the resurrection process, which they create essentially like using a Shi'ar golem. They create a fake husk that like uses like a backup copy of her without like all of her memories. And they like kill that, and then she goes to her no place. Essentially, she hides. Then it's revealed that Moira is actually hiding things from Professor X. And earlier, we find out that Professor X has actually replaced his own memories twice to avoid having a breakdown.
Oh, jeez.
So we see that same thing where like they come to Moira's no place with tea, and like she's like, you brought tea. I literally have a doorway that leads to Krakoa and one that leads to like the greatest like culinary city in the world, and you brought me tea. They're like, we did it. We're a nation. Isn't that hot? And like they're like, yeah, and like we pretty much have everybody except for one member of the government as well on our side of the Krakoan government. They haven't named the Red King yet, but like fine, whatever. And like it's all gonna work out. We have one little problem is that like Mystique really wants to bring Destiny back. And Moira's like, no precogs can ever set foot on Krakoa. And they're like, no, we'll just keep pushing it off.
Nope, not the lady told me to burn.
No, it's cool. We'll push that off. We'll push it off. But inevitably, Moira, we might want to tell folk the truth of what's going on. She's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like,
You mean that we lose?
Yeah, and that's it. They're like, she's like, we always lose. And like, you know, Xavier's like, yeah, but like now we're together. Things are totally different, and it's all because of you. But the fact is, like, Moira, it's time for you to step down and let us do what we needed to do. And we see all the same stuff, but this is the conversation they were having.
Yeah.
Where they're like, you did this, you made us, and all that crap, but like, it's time for you to step aside and let us do what we need to do. And look what we made, and is it freaking awesome? And then like, literally see the next part of Charles and Magneto being like, so yeah, like, you know, we did this. We showed what the world is, what like real mutant is.
Yeah.
And like Charles is like, be careful with that. Like you might get a response. He's like, I'm not ashamed of what I am, Charles.
Yeah.
And he's just like, let them stop us.
Let them try.
Yeah. Let them try. It's the last words of Charles Xavier as they're just like, that's cool. And like the final quote is Magneto, I'm not ashamed of what I am.
And you're like, oh my God.
Interesting.
So this ends but doesn't end.
No, because now it's the dawn of X.
springboard for the dawn of X, which will be a slew of books.
Which is as like is answering questions, but also creating more.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what is Moira's plan? In fact, to the like, since we've like at the time of filming this, I should say, at the time of filming this, Moira has not shown back up.
No.
So
yeah.
is this retconning the reality that we've
been reading?
We've been reading
Yes.
where Professor X knew all this shit the whole time.
Yes, that's what
Well-
they're saying.
and he became Onslaught and all that.
Knowing that like they'll fix it. I
So
guess.
some people say yes, but some people say no, because there's the potential that whatever happens in Life 10, that really the 616 universe is in Life 11.
That's my
yeah.
expectation as well. But I think
Okay.
like because they show in one of Moira's lives, like if she and Professor X just bang, everything happens pretty much the way you expect.
Right,
Right.
and
It's
if,
like so that like they're all, like, basically Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man. They're always gonna do what they're gonna do, and so that'll always happen.
Right.
So don't worry. All your books are still like in canon and they matter. It's
Okay.
just this stuff that wraps around it.
So is
who knows?
Powers of X also referring to the 10 lives that she has?
Yeah, that's what they
it's
say.
powers of 10. It's
Powers
House
of
of
10,
X
sorry.
and powers of 10.
And I've heard some people say that it's House of 10, as if to say, like, because we've been thinking House of X, because House of M, we know it's the House of Magnus. In this, it's like, oh, House of X, House of Xavier. But maybe it's actually House of 10 or House of X, Moira X. That really this whole thing is Moira's house.
Right, and it really could be. I mean,
Whose house?
Moira's house.
and there's also a lot of questions about like putting in all that information about the Phalanx and the Singularity, and obviously they wanted to avoid getting to that future. But the idea is that it's possible that that is what she thinks is what will fix things. Is like taking mutantdom and creating its own singularity. And I think it's right now Moira's plan is to literally just like live longer than they have before in hopes of beating humanity's ability to like artificially evolve itself.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Because like they mentioned earlier, like in the book during like I think it's the X3 timeline that like the issue is that like when humanity merged with machines, because that's what we see, the blue people are that they are like a merging of machines. It does follow that like Nimrod like apocalypse timeline where like they merge with machines. But the fact is, it's like it creates like this weird inconsistency where it's like the human element can then progress because of the machine element, and then the machine element can progress, but eventually the human element won't be able to keep up.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Yeah.
And so that's why
you keep talking about like mutants versus humans, but eventually you abandon humanity yourselves.
Yeah.
But in order to just not become mutants, which I was just like,
Jesus Christ, guys.
Yeah. You hate us that much.
Yeah.
wow.
Good Lord.
Why?
Are we that gross? Come
Well, I mean,
on.
some of you are.
Yeah, look at antler wrists
Yeah.
Look at Beak.
and husk.
No, it's not natural. I won't do it.
It is natural.
I'll become a
Most
computer
natural.
before I let that happen. Before I let my son marry a dirty mutie.
What? Anyway, that's it. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Tiffany.
Bye.
Bye.